My entitled mother seems to believe that she has a final say in who I can and cannot marry, because after I introduced her to my boyfriend, she explicitly stated that I am forbidden from marrying that man. And at this point, I am so pissed off that I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, for starters, I come from a Christian home, and my mother is extremely religious. Church is not just part of her life, it is her entire identity, and she believes that being religious automatically makes her right about everything. I'm a 25-year-old female, and I'm currently dating someone who I will call Chris for the sake of the story. We've been together for a while, and recently we decided to take the next step and start planning for marriage. 2 days ago, I introduced Chris to my family so we could begin those discussions properly. The meeting itself went fine, and Chris was respectful and polite, and everybody seemed okay during the visit, so I thought things were moving in a good direction. After Chris left, my mother immediately called a family meeting and said that Chris would not be marrying me because, according to her, he is not a committed Christian. She said this as if it were like already decided and not even open for discussion. She then reminded me for what felt like the 100th time that she already has a better suitor for me. This man, who I will call James, happens to be a member of the church that she attends. I have no romantic interest in James, but in my mother's mind, his church membership alone makes him the superior choice. My elder brother, who I will call Kevin, spoke up and said that he does not support her choosing a partner for me. He told her clearly that I'm an adult and capable of deciding who I want to marry. Well, my mom responded by saying, "I am her mother. I am matured enough to know what is good for her." And that sentence summed up everything. In her mind, my age, my feelings, and autonomy mean nothing compared to her title as my mother. I then told her calmly but briefly that she has no right to choose a partner for me. I told her that I love Chris and that I intend to marry him. She then accused me of being disrespectful, and she blamed Chris for changing me, and even claimed that my decision to stand up for myself was proof that he's a bad influence. According to her, loving someone she did not choose equals rebellion. The discussion eventually turned into an argument, and my elder brother and I stood up and just left the meeting. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation for not wanting to marry this man that my mom's trying to set me up with? Because right now I'm honestly pissed off and I don't know what to do. Okay, your mom is crazy. Seriously, she's trying to use her religion as some way of being like, oh, I get to decide who you can marry. And guess what? James is a better man for you because he goes to my church. And it's like, bro, there are so many things wrong with that. But the biggest thing for me is like, just because you go to church doesn't mean that you're better than someone else. I know so many people who are Christian and go to church, but they are pieces of garbage. They cheat on their wives, they literally steal from people, and they are literally the exact opposite of what they believe in. Why on earth would anybody want to get married to that? And it's like, dude, who knows what James is actually like? He could be some weirdo at the end of the day, but she has no idea because she's blinded by the fact that, oh, he's a member of my church, so he's good. That's a better suitor than what you got right now. Sorry, but I'm your mom. Oh, and by the way, anytime someone says, oh, I'm your mother or I'm your father, so you have to listen to me, that should be a giant red flag that no, you probably shouldn't listen to them, and what they're saying is most likely garbage. Like, since when is that a justification for anything? Like, this isn't colonial times. What's going on right now? Just because you're my parent and you're religious and you believe in God doesn't mean you're somehow like a genius and you somehow have a say over my entire life. Like, what's happening right now? So if I was in your shoes, I would reject this arranged marriage garbage and be like, no, I'm gonna marry Chris and there's nothing you can do about that. Because as far as I can see, Chris probably checks a lot of boxes for you. He's respectful, he's polite, and obviously you love him. And if your mom's not on board with that, then that is absolutely her problem and not yours. Because as an adult, your mom has absolutely no say in what you can and cannot do, especially when it comes to who you want to marry. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Did I overreact by staying in a hotel instead of staying at my boyfriend's family's house for Christmas, all because they had a cat that I'm allergic to? Because right now, I feel like my entire life is falling apart, and at this point, I don't know what else to do. Here's what's going on. So my boyfriend and I have been dating for 2 years, and we decided that since last year we spent both holidays, namely Thanksgiving and Christmas, with my family, we would finally spend some holiday time with his family. Now, I was so excited about this because from the times that he's called them and the pictures he's shown me, they seemed really lovely. But because we live across the country from his family and he hasn't seen them in a few years, this would be the first time I'd meet them in person. Anyways, flash forward to the 23rd, where we flew into his hometown and then got to the house. And when I got there, I saw that his family has cats. And yes, more than one. Mind you, I'm allergic to cats. So after exchanging pleasantries with the rest of his family and dropping our stuff off in the guest bedroom, I asked my boyfriend if we could step outside to talk, because at this point I was gripping a tissue, trying to make sure that my nose didn't drip everywhere on everyone everyone while trying to hide the fact that I was scratching myself like a maniac. We went outside and I asked him why he didn't tell me that his family had cats, knowing that I'm allergic to them, but he told me that I already knew his family were cat people and that apparently I would have already come prepared, while also saying that they're short-haired cats, meaning that they don't trigger allergies. Now, to his point, I did know from pictures when he was younger that he had a cat, but when I had asked if his family had gotten another one, he told me no because his family was very attached to this cat, so it wouldn't be the same if they got another one. So I brought that up and he just said to me, well, I guess they just forgot to tell me about the new ones. So because I wanted to make a good impression of his family and had nowhere else to stay, I tried to tough it out for the rest of the stay. And I will say it was a terrible idea. The next morning my eyes were red and itchy, and so was the rest of my body. It felt like my nose was about to literally fall off my face. So I told my boyfriend that as much as I wanted to, I just simply couldn't stay here. I then asked if we could go to a hotel instead, and that during Christmas, I would keep trying throughout the day by going in and out of the house just to make it through. But for today, I just needed some time to recover. Well, he then told me that I could stay at a hotel, but he wanted to stay at his family's house because he hadn't seen them in forever. In hindsight, I really should have protested more, but I just accepted it, and we drove to find a hotel that would have an open room at the last minute. Safe to say, we did find one, but it's almost 30 minutes from the house. So I stayed there, and my boyfriend brought me meals and checked on me every few hours. Well, eventually Christmas Day comes around, and I'm feeling better and waiting for my boyfriend to come pick me up. Well, after an hour of waiting at the time he said he would be there, I called him up and asked him if he was on his way. He responded by saying that he was and that he just got busy. Well, fast forward and 2 more hours passed by. So I tried to call him, but it went straight to voicemail. Then I texted him, but still I got no response. Then 5 more hours passed by, and he called me to tell me that he was outside. I then yelled at him over the phone that he was supposed to pick me up hours ago, and he apologized but said that he was busy opening gifts and talking to family. I then told him that he was better off going back to the house because I was staying at the hotel. He then told me, fine, be that way, and then he drove off. Well, fast forward to yesterday, where he picked me up to go to his aunt's house, where I was being given the silent treatment all day. And this is all aside from some talks we had, just to save face in front of the rest of his family. But I will say that other than that, it went pretty well. After he dropped me back off at the hotel, he didn't say anything. No goodnight call, nothing, which embarrassingly made me cry myself to sleep. And now I'm sitting here typing this, trying to make any kind of sense out of all of this. I'm thinking about how I could have stuck it out the whole trip and everything would be fine. And I could have just played it off as if I'm just sick from the weather changing, because now I feel like my whole life is falling apart. So seriously, did I overreact by getting a hotel? Should I have just toughed it out? What should I do? Oh my god, your boyfriend is so toxic it is not even funny. First and foremost, this guy abandoned you on Christmas Day. Your hotel was only 30 minutes away, and this guy literally said, oh, I'm not gonna pick you up. I'm gonna pick you up 7 hours later, and then turn this against you when you get upset about it. Like, this guy is a piece of crap. I think you need to see that first and foremost. And there's a lot of red flags here, like, I'm not even kidding. Because for starters, this guy absolutely knew that they had a cat. Anything he's saying right now is completely a lie, and I just don't believe that. But also, he's trying to sit there and be like, oh yeah, I was too busy to pick you up and bring you over for Christmas. Like, are you kidding me right now? That's so dumb. And the icing on the cake for me is the fact that he's giving you the cold shoulder and treating you like garbage and not showing any affection. Like, dude, your girlfriend had an allergic reaction and he's trying to act like you're ruining things, all because you can't stay in a house that you're allergic to. Like, come on, man. So yeah, this guy sucks, and no, you didn't do anything wrong. Going to a hotel quite literally was the smart decision, especially when you consider that your own health was at risk. So in my opinion, I think you could do way better than this boyfriend, because he does not sound like a winner, and in my opinion, it just doesn't sound like he likes you in the slightest. Am I the jerk for blowing up on my sister? All because of the way she's acting towards our phone charger. Because after she slandered my name and claimed that I broke the old one, I finally snapped and I told her exactly how I feel. And at this point, I'm not really sure if I took it too far or if I'm justified in any way. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so me, my sister, and my mom all have Android phones. Half a year ago, I bought a new charger, and we've been sharing 2 cables like we always do. We keep one charger downstairs, and my sister keeps hers upstairs, so that we always have a charger on each floor. Now, all of us share the chargers. However, my sister always gets annoyed when we use hers, even though she uses ours when she's not in her room. The actual drama in this scenario started last week on Thursday. After coming home from work, my sister started complaining and whining about how I had apparently broken her charger. The cable does show some use, and the plastic sheath is minimally damaged. Like, there's no wires sticking out, and the charger still works completely fine. It literally is a tiny tear where you can see a little bit of like gray coloring peeking through. Well, my mother heard her, and she actually was the one that admitted that she was the one who broke it. Well, my sister just ignored her and kept accusing me. The next morning, I traveled over 90 minutes to an electronics shop. I bought her a new charger for like $30, and I left it on her bed in the evening after she accused me for a third time. I then took the broken charger in exchange. I told her verbally that the broken charger would now simply belong to me, since she got a brand new one and complained so much about her old destroyed one. Well, during the weekend, she kept taking the broken charger from my room and using it, so I explained to her once more that she should use her new one. But when she repeated this on Monday, I confronted her because I could not understand why she kept using the broken one, which she complained about so much. She then claimed that the old one still belongs to her, but I explained to her that once again, the broken one is now mine, and since everyone has their own charger, she should stop using it, as I did not touch her new one since I bought it. But once again, she just completely ignored me. My mom told me not to make a big deal out of this, and I could use hers if I needed to, but at that point, I just left the room before I could get even angrier. Well, today my sister told my little brother to get her charger from my room just so she can charge her notebook, and it was at this moment that I exploded. I straight up called her out, asking her why she kept on using my broken charger when I literally got her a brand new one that is the exact same model. She then just told me to chill out and that she forgot she had a new one, even though it was openly lying on her desk. Now, being absolutely fed up with her, I yelled at her to keep the broken one too, since she so obviously needs to use two different chargers at the same time, and that I'll just buy myself a new one as well. And now my mom's trying to act like I'm the one that overreacted and that I'm in the wrong. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Because I'm seriously so pissed off at this. Okay, first off, no, you are not the jerk. But secondly, I would never buy another charger, and instead I would take the one that I bought for her and use that instead. Like seriously, if she's gonna act like that, well then congratulations. You're gonna get your old charger back and I'm gonna keep my new one. And no, you're never gonna use it ever again. Like this is some crazy behavior. So no, you're not in the wrong because the way your sister's acting is incredibly stupid. Am I the selfish one for not wanting to uproot my life and move in with my wife's family just because her father suddenly passed away? Because right now it's causing a lot of tension, and at this point I really don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, for starters, my wife's dad unexpectedly passed away in an accident 3 weeks ago. Her parents were teenagers when they had her, so he was still very young. Financially, they are taken care of through his social security, and his work insurance policies will continue paying out his salary for a few years. The issue is that my wife has two sisters who still live at home. One is a teenager in high school, and the other is in her early 20s, but she suffers from severe bipolar disorder and needs a lot of therapy and a lot of attention. Because of this, after my wife's dad passed away, she immediately convinced herself that she needs to move into her parents' house permanently just to help her mom care for her two sisters. In fact, she already told her entire family that she would move here without even first discussing it with me. We have a 1-year-old daughter together, so it wouldn't just be her moving. Now, I was extremely annoyed with her committing to this without consulting or even considering me at all. But she basically said to me, "Oh, you don't have to come with us," which is not an option for me, as I don't want to be away from my daughter or be in a long-distance marriage. This would essentially require me to leave my job, sell most of our stuff, and break our lease. Our home is 3 hours away. I actually really love my life back home too. I have a good job and I just got a promotion. I'm on a good career trajectory, and the job is honestly easy. It's enjoyable and gives me an amazing work-life balance. The city we currently live in is walkable with a lot of green space. There are parks for my daughter, and I have a solid friend group. I enjoy nature and I love running, and I love going on bike rides, so it's been immensely good for my quality of life. Additionally, my friends are here and my parents live 30 minutes away. My wife also has similar hobbies and values nature and walkability, and has a big friend group here too. By contrast, the area my wife's family lives is extremely suburban. There are no trees, no sidewalks, just subdivisions and absolutely no quality of life for the things that we typically enjoy as a family. Also, I would have to find a new job and leave my friends and family. My wife comes from a massive Mexican-American family. Several times a week, the family gets together and drinks heavily and stays up super late. And I've been here for 3 weeks and I'm already exhausted from the lifestyle. I appreciate the culture, but at the same time, it's very different from the lifestyle I currently enjoy. Additionally, I don't think it's a place I want to raise my daughter. I always envision a place where she could enjoy nature and ride her bike bike to school, and I'd even offered for her family to move in with us, but they don't want to leave their large extended family and community. My job is currently letting me work remote, but I will have to return home the first week of January to oversee some projects. After that, the near-term plan is for me to work in our hometown 4 days a week, and then come here for the weekends just to be with my family. This will be sustainable for like a few months, but it is not a permanent solution. I don't want to only see my kids 3 days a week during these formative years. I'm in a tough position right now because I want to be supportive of her in this difficult moment of grief, and I love her family and I want to show up for them as well. At the same time, I don't want to move here. I know that if I move here on a personal level, I will be sacrificing a lot of quality of life. I'll be sacrificing proximity to my family and leaving my community. I also feel like I would be depriving my daughter of raising her in a place with a good quality of life. So am I selfish for feeling this way? How can I be a good husband right now while still advocating for my own quality of life? What should I do? Okay, first off, I don't blame you for being like, wait a second, what do you mean I've got to like uproot my life and move there? I don't know about you, but the fact that she said, oh, you don't have to come with us, that kind of felt like a threat, if anything, and it almost sounded like, hey, you can either come with me and be a part of this, or I'm gonna leave you and I'm gonna go there anyways. Oh, and by the way, I'm gonna take my daughter with me. Like, that's a really sketchy way of handling this, and I just don't like the fact that she basically volunteered you to do this. So no, this is not okay. This is not the way you go about doing like life-changing stuff, especially for your family, because I understand that she's grieving and she's going through a lot, but this should not be at the expense of your family dynamics, which in my opinion, it kind of seems like that's exactly what's happening. An entitled jerk at a community dance hall is overly determined that he is going to be taking me home with him. And despite the fact that I've explained to him that I'm not interested because I'm engaged, this guy followed me around the entire time, bothering me and my friends in a way that was incredibly inappropriate. Here's what happened. To start things off, I live in a very rural area, and we have community hall dances every few months that me and the girls always attend together. We stay in our group of girls and always have a good time, but this time it was different. There's always someone hammered at the dance, confusing a community called dance for a bar, but we always ignore whoever it is that's in that stage. Well, last night they didn't give us much room to ignore them. This guy that I've never even seen before walked straight over to our group. Immediately, I see him look me up and down, and then he stood there silently for a moment, giving me direct eye contact. And for reference, eye contact makes me quite uncomfortable. I looked away and continued talking with my friends, but it's here that he starts complimenting my hair. And in my head, I knew exactly what he was trying to do, but I just nodded and said, oh, that's nice of him. Well, he then continues on to say that if he was my boyfriend, he wouldn't leave me alone for any guy to take home. And it's here that I said to him, well, me and my fiance have trust, so that's not a problem. But then he just keeps on going and says to me, oh, well, if it were me, I wouldn't let a girl like you out of my sight. Then he starts telling my other friend that he's going to help her up, and for reference, she was crouching down because she was cold, but she declined, and he just goes on to say, don't worry, I'm not one of those guys. Me and my friends then just gave each other the look and walked right past the guy to another area. Well, fast forward to 10 minutes later, and I'm dancing with my girls, and we're all having a good time, and at this point, my mom was hitting the dance floor, so I started recording her to send it to my sister. Well, here comes this guy again, and yes, I did get it on video. He practically walks through my mom, pushing her out of the way just to get to me. He comes right beside me, literally shoulder to shoulder, and keep in mind, this is a dance, not a club, but he did not need to be touching me. He leaned into my ear and goes, you can't be recording all of this. And I say to him, well, I'm recording my mom. He then replies to me and says, your mom? And so I point at my mom and I say, yeah, that's my mom. He then changes the subject and says, again in my ear, are you single? Which is like, dude, I already answered this once. I said to him, no, I'm not. And he goes on to say, oh, you have a boyfriend? And I said, actually, and I just put my ring right in his face as a response. He then takes a second of awkwardly staring at me and my ring while also still touching me. And if you're wondering why I didn't like move away, he basically had me pinned between him and the table. He then put his hands up and steps away and goes, I respect that, and begins to ask why my fiance isn't there. I then tell him that my fiance's a working man and was at his night shift providing for me. I then cut him off at his last sentence and I tell him, this is me and my girl's song, I'm gonna go dance with them, and I walk past him and I left him standing there awkwardly. Now you might think that he would just give up and move on, but no, that's not at all what happened. He stared at me the entire night. The girl he brought with him comes up to me and tells me that she was trying to explain to him that I'm engaged, but he was absolutely determined to bring me home. But I straight up told her that That is never happening. After 2 of our friends left for the night, I was still hanging around with my friend who was coming back to my place with me. And yeah, I'm sure you probably guessed it at this point, but this guy comes over again. He stands about 2 feet in front of me and starts flirting with my friend. And he kept giving me this look like he's trying to make me jealous. But really, now you're just making multiple girls incredibly uncomfortable. He starts telling my friend, as we were outside for a puff break, that she should go inside because she must be cold if he's freezing out there. Well, we then told him that we were fine, but he was welcome to go back inside if he wanted to. He then starts saying to her that she has to go inside because she will freeze. But I just looked at him and I said, she's fine. And he goes on to say, well, I know she is, but she should go inside. So me and her look at him and walk past him to go inside together. But then behind us, I heard him go, look, I'm just trying to make friends. I'm not trying to be rude. But at this point, we just ignored him and I left a few minutes after that. It's also important to note, because I forgot to mention it earlier, after the first encounter, we told the bouncer to keep an eye on him and left our drinks with a dance coordinator to keep watch, because this guy seemed absolutely determined that he was going to take me home one way or another. And honestly, the way he acted was incredibly creepy. Oh my gosh, this is one of those situations where it's like, dude, this guy needs to learn how to take no for an answer. The original poster said multiple times, like, dude, I'm not interested. You need to leave me alone. Like, go away. You literally gave out every sign I could think of to project to this moron that, yeah, you're not available. You talked about your fiance 2 more times than you needed to. You showed him your ring. You walked away from him. You spent time with your friends. Like, literally, you're avoiding this guy and you're saying no thank you so many times. And yet he can't take a hint and just move on with his life. Like, dude, that's so weird. And it's especially concerning because you know what? I don't blame you for leaving your drinks with the dance coordinator at all, because this guy gives off the vibe as someone who probably would try to like spike your drink to take you home or something like that. So truly, this was a very creepy situation. I'm so sorry that you went through that, but I'm also glad that you got out of there unscathed, because this situation absolutely could have gone bad really quickly. My toxic ex-friend kicks me out of a club we shared together by claiming that I was being problematic despite the fact that I didn't do anything. But now, after they realize my absence is seriously ruining their club, they're demanding that I come back and help them in the same way as when I was a full-fledged member, screaming that it's not fair that all the benefits I brought to the club are gone all because I got kicked out. Because right now, I am incredibly frustrated. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of background, I'm a 21-year-old male, and I've been a part of my university's music club for a little more than a year up until this September. I first auditioned as a guitarist, and I got in around September of 2023. And because of the connections I've made in the music scene here, since I've been involved in the music industry since I was about 14 years old, I help provide certain things for free that weren't available to the club before. Stuff like sound engineers, studio time, access to certain events, etc. And I agreed to do this with the board at the time, and decided to keep my involvement on the low as it would undermine the board a bit, and it might cause some kind of problems. Well, the issue started when a new board member was elected this semester, and it just so happens that the new president is someone that belongs to the same friend group within the club, which ended up breaking up, and we fell into 2 different sides. We will be calling her Emma to make things easier. As soon as Emma got elected, she decided to kick us out for being problematic, and that was that. At first, I thought about cutting them off right after I was out, but some of my friends were still part of the club and already had performances planned, and I didn't want to ruin it for them. So I waited until the first event was done around late October, and I talked to my contacts, and I told them that I would no longer be working with that club, and I thanked them for all the help. Well, about a week after that, I got a call from the old president who told me that Emma called her and asked for her to talk to the sound engineers, as they didn't want to talk to them anymore, and they aren't interested in working with them. And that's when she told them about our deal. Well, sure enough, I got an email that afternoon saying that I'm invited to a meeting with the board to discuss club activities that I've been involved in for the past year. To not go into what ended up being a 2-hour meeting, they basically asked me for help and said that they can't keep the club running without it, as it would cost them a lot of money that they don't have, and they also said that they are willing to have me back, but I straight up said no. The following week, word got out, and I was bombarded with messages from members of the club telling me that it's not fair for me to punish them for what the board members did to me. My friends that were still in the club and the ones that were kicked out with me are all on my side, though I can feel that some of them are disappointed that they won't be able to perform anymore. I do believe that since I'm not in the club anymore, I don't have to provide any help to them. But hearing the members' reaction and seeing my friends react that way as well makes me feel like maybe I'm the jerk here. So truly, am I the jerk for not wanting to help out any longer? Because right now I really don't know what to do. Wow, this is incredible because seriously, the audacity of these people to ask for your help after they literally kicked you out of their club is unbelievable. Like for starters, it really seems like you got kicked out for dumb reasons. Like they're just sitting there like, oh yeah, you're being problematic, so you have to go. And then they try to act like, well, we need your help in getting this off the ground, otherwise people can't perform. And it's like, I'm sorry, don't expect anything out of me when you kick me out of your club. Like the original poster clearly brought in a lot of connections to this club, and it allowed people to actually have a chance to perform and do all kinds of stuff. So for them to kick you out and then guilt trip you into making sure your contacts still help them out, like that is so selfish and entitled, it's not even funny. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. Emma and the rest of her stupid friends are complete morons. And the fact that they would even ask you for help after the way they completely screwed you over, in my opinion, says a lot about them. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for yelling at my sister after she put her phone on Do Not Disturb and left her first grader at school without picking him up? Because right now I am very upset with her, and at this point I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so today at 4:00 p.m., my nephew's elementary school called me. He's 7 years old and in the first grade. Apparently, he had been left at school for about 40 minutes after dismissal, and the office said they couldn't reach anyone on his emergency contact list. They then asked me if I could get in touch with his parents, namely my sister and her husband. I tried calling both of them, but their phones were on Do Not Disturb. The calls would ring once and go straight to voicemail, which was odd because their phones should usually ring a few times before going to voicemail. Since neither of them was rechargeable, I got concerned and decided to go pick up my nephew myself. While I was on my way there, I kept trying to call my sister. She finally called me back about 90 minutes after when the school first tried to reach her, and she was saying that her and her husband had just been napping. And when she said this, I was furious. It felt incredibly irresponsible for them to leave their child stranded at school and silence their phones, especially as parents of a young child and a toddler. Her excuse was that her husband had asked her grandparents to pick up my nephew, but there was a miscommunication. I told her that even if that was the plan, she shouldn't have put her phone on Do Not Disturb because emergencies like this can still happen. Well, her response really shocked me. She said she likes putting her phone on Do Not Disturb during naps, and if I was going to react this way, she would remove me from my nephew's emergency contact list. She also added that I was the last contact on the list anyways, because her in-laws, namely the grandparents, were listed first. She then accused me of overreacting, saying that normal people wouldn't get angry about something like this. She even mentioned that she's made a lot of new friends this year and now understands how normal people act. Now, I found this insulting because I was the only one responsible enough to answer the school's call and make sure her child was safe. She continued justifying herself, saying it's normal not to answer their phones if they're busy at work or in meetings. But she insisted that having her phone on Do Not Disturb was necessary because she takes naps with a toddler and she needs complete silence. By the end of the conversation, she tried to make me feel like I was in the wrong for being upset. She said I had a right to be concerned, but no right to be angry or yell at her. She then added that she doesn't like spending time with family because there's always an argument when she talks to us. And this left me completely baffled. Instead of showing any gratitude for my help, she threw backhanded insults at me, even though I was the one who ensured her child's safety. Her reaction made me question whether I was wrong to be upset, but I still feel her behavior was irresponsible and ungrateful. So am I the jerk for making sure her kid was picked up from school? Because right now I really don't know what to do. Oh man, if this was my sister, I would be furious with her right now. You mean to tell me she would rather take a nap than actually pick her kid up from school? Like, what is going on right now? Not to mention the fact that she put it on Do Not Disturb. Like, that is so irresponsible, it's not even funny. So no, you're not the jerk for yelling at your sister, because if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for refusing to make Starbucks drinks for my family on Thanksgiving after my mom announced in the middle of our dinner that I would make a bunch of desserts for all of my family members? Because after I said no, she got really upset, claiming that I embarrassed her after she went out of her way to buy all these supplies. And now I don't know what to do and I feel incredibly frustrated. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 28-year-old female and I worked at Starbucks for a little over 2 years. And ever since then, my family has loved asking me to recreate their favorite drinks at home. I don't mind doing it once in a while, but it's not exactly my favorite thing, especially because I don't have all the equipment equipment or supplies that Starbucks has. This Thanksgiving, my mom hosted dinner and invited a bunch of extended family. After we finished eating, she casually announced, "Okay everyone, my daughter will be making Starbucks drinks for dessert." And when she said this, I was completely blindsided. Apparently, she had bought a bunch of syrups, a bunch of whipped cream, and even a little espresso machine just for this. When I said I didn't really feel like making drinks for 15 people, my mom got super annoyed. She said to me, "It's not that hard for you. You used to do this all the time at work." A few of my cousins then started chiming in too, saying it would be fun and they would help out. But I didn't come to Thanksgiving to play barista for the entire family, so I decided to stand my ground. Well, my mom is now upset, saying I embarrassed her after she went out of her way to buy all the supplies. Some of my family thinks I was being selfish and that it wouldn't have taken that long, but I just wanted to enjoy the holiday and not work for it. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, seriously, I don't think you're the jerk at all. If your mom really wanted you to do this, then she really should have asked you ahead of time. The fact that she dropped this on you in front of everybody not only put you in a weird spot, but it also forced you into a lose-lose situation. If you give in and do this for everybody, then guess what? You had to be the barista for Thanksgiving. And clearly this is not something you want to do. But also, if you choose not to do it, then your mom's gonna freak out in the way that she did. And she's gonna be like, "Wow, you embarrassed me." But seriously, I think it's the other way around. I think she embarrassed you and put you on the spot, when all she had to do was ask you ahead of time, and I'm sure you could have figured something out. Because I know for me, I would much rather be prepared for something like that than to have it dropped on me last second and have everyone be like, "Oh yeah, you can do it. Let's make all these desserts for all of us." So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because I think the way that your mom treated you is incredibly unfair. Am I the jerk for refusing to invite my fiance's childhood friend after we found out that she's been actively talking garbage about my marriage, claiming that I'm ugly, that my husband can do better than me, while also accusing me of cheating? Because right now I feel very hurt and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I recently got engaged to my fiance, who we will call Matt, and we are in the process of planning our wedding. When the topic of the guest list came up, I told him that I would not be okay with inviting his friend, who we will call Melissa. Now, to give some backstory, Melissa's family and my fiance's family have been super close since they were toddlers. And although I might sound like an insecure girlfriend right now, I'd like to think that I have a valid reason to dislike her. To give some backstory, I met Matt and Melissa when we were teenagers working at a summer job. I became very close to the both of them and eventually started falling for Matt. Melissa was aware of this, as we would always discuss it, and she would say how cute she thinks it would be if it worked out. Melissa eventually moved away for college, and Matt and I became official shortly after she left. Whenever we would post on social media, she would be quick to comment and like everything. And whenever she was back in town, we would have dinners with both of their families, and she would always say how happy she is for us. Well, upon recent events, I discovered from several credible sources that she has been saying things about me. She would say stuff like, "Matt can do better, she is so ugly and they just won't last. I bet she's cheating on him." When I told my fiance about this, he cut her off but did not confront her. He said it was for the sake of their parents and siblings to not cause any drama. Now, I was hurt that he didn't stand up for me, but I also chose to respect his wishes and keep it away from everyone else. But when it comes to my wedding, I think I have an excuse to be a little selfish, since it is half about me. Why would I invite someone who secretly spites our relationship? When his mom found out about all of this, she didn't outwardly say that she wanted me to change my mind, but she did try and persuade me by saying, "Oh, just be the bigger person," and show them that her words mean absolutely nothing to you. And she does have a point that Melissa's absence will be noticed by many, and it will raise some questions. I don't want drama and I don't want gossip, but at the same time, it hurts my morals to invite someone just to please others. So am I the jerk for not wanting to invite this lady? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Oh man, I don't blame you for a second for not wanting to invite this lady to your wedding. She's actively disparaging your relationship with Matt. She's literally saying, "Oh, she's ugly and I bet she's cheating on him." And it's like, what are you talking about? She is clearly upset that you landed Matt while she got left in the dust. So now she's talking badly about you behind your back, and it's like, wait a second, how is this fair? Because think about the alternative here. Why should you have to put up with that garbage at your wedding? Because truly, if I knew that someone was talking badly about my future relationship, and then suddenly they think they're entitled to show up at my wedding, like, I'm sorry, that's not gonna happen for a second. There's no way. So no, you are not the jerk in this situation, because honestly, I would have done the exact same thing. My girlfriend broke up with me because I broke my ankle, as she now views me as less of a man because I broke my ankle, and that she wants her future children to have strong bones, and that she's disappointed in my genetics. And now at this point, I feel completely devastated and I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my girlfriend and I are 19 years old. We've been in a relationship for about a year now, and last week I fell down my stairs and broke my ankle. And my girlfriend was at the top of the stairs witnessing all of this. Actually, this is the first time I've broken a bone or even fallen down a set of stairs. I had my shoes on and I just wasn't paying attention. And trust me, I'm never gonna do that again. However, as soon as I fell, my girlfriend turns around, puts her hands on her head and shook her head and acts disappointed. We went to the hospital to get it checked out, and it turns out I had fractured my ankle at the joint. So right now I'm in crutches and the bone is supposed to heal in about 6 weeks. However, since this happened about a week ago, I noticed my girlfriend increasing her distance from me, talking to me less and all this other stuff. So I asked if everything was okay, and that's when she opened up. She said she doesn't feel safe with me anymore and doesn't see me as a big tough man. She didn't think my bones would break like that because in her mind I was invincible and I would always be there to protect her, but I can't do that anymore, or it'll be to a less extent. Also, she wants kids who have strong bones, and she's disappointed in my genetics. I honestly don't even know what to do at this point. I'm quite devastated, and I do see her viewpoint, but I really think it's too harsh. And I know that everyone's gonna say that I dodged a train, but apart from that, I really don't know what to do. Oh my god, this is the funniest thing on planet Earth. She really thinks that because you broke your ankle, that somehow means that you're less of a man. I just can't believe that your bones would break like that. I want my kids to have strong bones. It's like, what are you talking about, lady? Anybody can break a bone. Literally anybody. So for her to be like, wow, I need someone with strong bones. I'm sure the original poster has strong bones, just as strong as any other 19-year-old, but falling down a flight of stairs might be one of those scenarios where it's like, yeah, it doesn't matter how strong your bones are, they're probably gonna break. So when you say that you dodged a train, oh, trust me, you absolutely did. If you could run, I would say run from this lady as fast as possible, but since you're on crutches, I would say hobble. You should hobble away from this nut job as fast as possible, because her rationale for breaking up with you is absolutely insane. Not even delusional from a stupid teenager, but just literally crazy talk, because you absolutely deserve way better than this. Am I the jerk for ruining our family dinner after a comment was made by my mom about my smile? Because right now I feel incredibly hurt and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so we're currently on a family vacation. It's myself, my husband, the 2 kids, and my parents. Now for a little background, my mother is odd, and my dad has commented as long as I can remember that she and I are like oil and water. I can't even put her oddness completely into words, other than to say that she feels competitive over my father's attention, not even with just me, but also with her grandsons. If my father wants to read them a story or tuck them into bed, she interrupts and tells him it's time for him to go to sleep. It's incredibly cringy to watch. The other pertinent fact is that I have chronic pain. Every avenue has been exhausted. My successful career is gone, but my mother always downplays it, acting like I just have a little headache when she knows that I am never not in pain. In contrast, she is constantly looking for a reason to see a new doctor. Every tiny twinge is the end of the world for her. So tonight we were set to go out for our first family dinner. We get to the lobby, everyone's dressed up, and it's decorated for Christmas, so I'm getting pictures. I finally asked my dad if he would like to take pictures of our family of 4, and as we're posing with our children in front, I see my mother go right up next to my dad and yell out, "Stop that, you need to fix your smile." Now, I honestly think she's talking to one of our boys, so since I can't see their faces, I add in by saying, "Okay, nice smiles, everyone." However, my mom interjects again. She looks at me and says, "No, your smile is horrible. It looks awful." She then imitates me by taking her fingers, puts them on each side of her mouth, and pulls one up and one down while tilting her head. When she did this, I'm honestly baffled, as I really am genuinely smiling. I realize that my smile probably doesn't extend up to my eyes like it used to, and this is the result of being in pain so much, but she's acting like I was doing a goofy face. I go to reset, and she once again yells out, "Stop making that face." Now at this point, I'm angry. I leave the pose, I get the phone from my dad, I pick up my purse, and I start walking towards the restaurant, but apparently she's not done. She then hurries after me, and continues to tell me how I need to look at the photos to see how awful my smile was. Well, I did look, and it wasn't that bad. There was nothing wrong with the picture. The fact that she kept going on and on, justifying her actions, it was honestly to the point where I was finally just done. So I stopped walking. I told my husband I'm sorry, but I'm going back to the room, and that he and the kids can go to dinner without me. I was on fire with anger, which then gave way to tears as soon as I was out of her presence. So in her mind, and maybe everyone else's, I'm the one who ruined dinner, and maybe I did. I should be able to just let her words roll off of me, but I feel like such a shell of my former self after everything I've lost to this devouring pain. I mean, now I can't even smile correctly. However, I'm pretty sure I'm being the jerk to the people I love the most, and that makes the whole thing a lot worse. So truly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I am still deeply hurt. No, your mom sounds obnoxious. First and foremost, if I was in your shoes, I would never go on vacation with her ever again. Like from this point on, I would literally start to distance distance myself completely and be like, okay, I'm gonna see you like twice a year if that. Because this behavior is so toxic. She was saying that to you on purpose, by the way. I hope you know that because that really is what I'm picking up here. Like she wanted you to make sure that you knew the one thing that you have in your life to express any kind of joy still looks stupid in her eyes. And for the record, I'm sure your smile looked completely fine. I'm sure there was nothing wrong with it and she was just being a massive jerk. So no, you didn't ruin anything. And if she really has something to say to you about this situation, then I would personally be completely okay with like letting her know exactly what's up. Because from the sounds of it, she's gotten away with this for far too long. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would be standing up for myself much sooner than later. Am I the jerk for refusing to give up my dog for my fiance's allergic daughter after they move in, despite the fact that my fiance knew I had a dog? Because right now I feel incredibly frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I have a golden retriever by the name of Max. He's been with me for 7 years and he is more than a pet. He is my family. My fiance, who we will call Tim, recently moved in with his 9-year-old daughter, who we will call Emily. Now, Emily is severely allergic to dogs. Not the kind where she just takes Benadryl and she's fine, but she's the kind where she will break out into hives and have serious breathing issues. Now, here's the important fact of this story. Tim knew that I had Max from the start, and when we were dating, he swore it wouldn't be a problem because they didn't live with me. But now that they're moved in, it is a constant issue. Emily's allergy flares up every time she's here, and now Tim is demanding that I rehome Max for her safety. Now, I've suggested every compromise I can think of. Keeping Max out of her room, constant deep cleaning, investing in air purifiers, even boarding Max part-time when Emily is over. But none of it is good enough. Tim says that I need to put Emily first and get rid of Max completely. He also made it clear that if I don't, he might need to rethink the wedding. Well, I told him flat out that I'm not rehoming Max. I love Tim and Emily, but Max is family, and I'm not dumping him like an old piece of furniture. Tim says I'm selfish and not ready to be a stepmom. His family's also piled on, saying that I'm prioritizing a dog over a child, and now I'm the villain of the week. My friends are split. Some of them agree with me, and others think I'm being heartless. So seriously, am I at fault in this situation? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Oh man, I do not think you're the jerk at all, and the fact that Tim's trying to be like, you need to get rid of your dog like right now. That is insane. This literally should have been a deal breaker from the start. If he really knew that his daughter had this kind of allergy, he would not have even entertained having a relationship with you, which really leads me to believe that no, he had no idea. He is not nearly informed about Emily's healthcare, and he probably only got concerned about this as soon as Emily was like, oh yeah, I can't breathe. It's like, what are you doing? This is literally Tim's fault. And to make matters worse, he literally lied to the original poster, saying stuff like, oh, I would never make you get rid of Max. But here we are moving into the house and he's like, oh yeah, you gotta get rid of Max. Like, this is all on Tim's shoulders in my opinion, and no one can tell me otherwise. So truly, I'm so sorry this happened to you, but also you definitely are not the jerk, because the way Tim is acting, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. My wife's toxic best friend is actively and currently trying to ruin my marriage, as she is now convincing my wife that I'm going to leave her for a younger woman. And despite the fact that we have a child together and that I've uprooted my entire life to be with my wife, we are now experiencing friction and contention all over this stupid best friend. So right now I feel very frustrated, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my wife and I have been together for 3 years and we've been married for 1. We have a 1-year-old daughter and we have all that we could ever ask for. We live a pretty calm and more introverted life, and my wife is especially introverted. Our relationship had kind of a slow start because we used to only be friends with benefits because our age difference used to bother her mentally. For reference, I'm a 23-year-old male and my wife is 33 years old. But we love each other and we have worked through a lot of judgment from other people. I am very happy and satisfied with my wife, and I don't need to go looking for other women or anything. Well, her best friend doesn't like me because I'm a younger guy and she tries putting stuff in my wife's head. She's made some disrespectful comments towards me and has said stuff along the lines of, oh, he's just with you for money. Or even things like, oh, once he's done leeching off of you, he's going to find a younger woman and he's gonna dump you. Now, all of this is not true, obviously, and I know it affects my wife sometimes because her mood changes. But if I wasn't in love with her, I wouldn't have left my family and moved to another state with her and had a child with her. I've tried talking with her friend, but she just shrugs me off and calls me a dumb kid and says that I know nothing about the world. I've tried reassuring my wife, but I feel like I need to do more than just give her words. All I do is work. I spend my time with my family, and I occasionally go on motorcycle meets with a small group of buddies, but I definitely do not hang out with other women, or let alone even with female friends. So how can I show my wife that I would never hurt her and that I truly want to be with her? She already has issues from past relationships, but I also also do not want to overdo it and make myself look suspicious over nothing. What should I do? Oh man, this lady is absolutely not your wife's friend. She's literally trying to tear apart your marriage over something that isn't happening. Like, that is crazy to me, and there is literally no good excuse for that. And it's even worse because it's somehow getting through to your wife. Like, seriously, let's think about this for a second. What kind of friend would do this to their friend and be like, oh yeah, he's gonna cheat on you. You need to dump him now while you still have the chance. It's like, seriously, this is so messed up, it's not even funny. Because your rationale is correct. You guys have been together for 3 years, you've been married for 1 year, you have a 1-year-old daughter with this lady. Like, I think it's pretty clear that you're committed to her and you're not gonna just dump her to the curb and be like, okay, time to find somebody else. So if I was in your situation, I would be talking to my wife and be like, listen, this lady is crazy. This lady is not your best friend and she's trying to tear apart our marriage. Because in all actuality, that's exactly what she's doing. And you do not deserve that kind of treatment in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled manager demands that I move faster at a family-run business, stating that as a dish runner, I need to move plates faster and more efficiently, stacking plates and cups higher than I could possibly go. So I decided to maliciously comply, resulting in well over $100 worth of damage. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I got my first job when I was 16 years old, and this was a dodgy family-run business that paid me less than minimum wage. But while I was there was one manager who was the definition of a middle-aged woman who absolutely hated their younger female coworkers. Let's call her Smudge for the sake of the story, and I call her that because her mascara application was dreadful. Smudge was one of those people who gave you the most harsh, vicious critiques, but all with a massive smile on her face. She wrote the book on passive aggressiveness, and for some reason, she was constantly on my case, even though I would go above and beyond in my role for this awful company. Anyways, during this one shift, there was a huge rush, and I had to run around collecting dirty dishes, and the trays were so flimsy that it felt like I was piling stuff on cling film, so I couldn't stack as much as Smudge wanted me to, even though I was still way over stacking dishes. She would say to me, you need to be way more efficient and stack the cups and the plates way more than this. This is just lazy. She then pointed to my tray that was about to give way in my tiny 16-year-old girl arms. So at that moment, I said to myself, fine, no problem. I got a new clean tray and I went to the downstairs section, which was still heaving with dishes, even though I'd made several trips already. But you know what? Orders are orders. I then piled 2 stacks of 10 ceramic plates, 4 thick round mugs, 4 tall slender mugs, and 7 tiny espresso mugs. The tray honestly felt like it was going to break, but efficiency is key, so I used all my strength to lift it up and began walking up the stairs. Well, wouldn't you guess it, I trip on a wet wipe and I couldn't hold the weight of the tray, so all those dishes fell and the damage was massive. 10 plates got smashed and 7 mugs got chipped. But of course, I needed to keep pushing up the stairs because I needed to be efficient. I eventually told Smudge what happened and she finally panics. She says to me, why did you stack that many? But I just looked at her and I said, I was doing what you said. Well, fast forward and the next day there was a meeting about not pushing past your limits. And honestly, I'm just glad I was able to get back at Smudge because her attitude was awful to deal with. That really is a funny way to get back at somebody, especially a coworker who's being passive aggressive. And my God, I definitely know who you're talking about here. They say these awful things, but they hide it behind this fake huge smile, as if they're finding delight in saying these terrible things to you. Those are the worst coworkers because they try to hide behind their niceness, as if they're not being a complete jerk the entire time. So good for you for firing right back at this lady, because in my opinion, her attitude was completely unacceptable. My partner got me a frying pan for my birthday, claiming that we can now use this to cook food together, even though I'm the only one in the house that cooks anything at any point. But now my partner's calling me entitled and spoiled for being upset about getting a frying pan as a present. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So today is my birthday, and I really had a great day until I got home. My partner of 5 years who I live with called me up and told me that he was coming home and he was making steak, but he wanted to pick up a stainless steel pan first because I know he's wanted to get one for a while. It's important to know that he always ties up my birthday and anniversary present together, as they are just a few days apart. So when I arrived home after him, he had a card, flowers, and the frying pan as my gift sitting on the dinner table. Now, the flowers are lovely and I love the nice birthday card, but the pan on the other hand, you know, the one in which he ran out and picked up before arriving home, honestly really upset me. I do the majority of the cooking and cleaning in our relationship, and this is because I'm a full-time student with a stipend, so I am home a lot more than he is, which is fine, but that pan just represents wants more work for me. I have been telling him for a couple of years now that I would love a necklace or something pretty. Well, I did a poor job of hiding my disappointment, and I laughed at the pan initially because I truly thought that he was joking about it. Over dinner, he dug into me about it, saying that I was entitled and spoiled for being upset about the pan, when meanwhile, I had told him about some things I would have loved. One of them was kitchen related, but it was a frivolous want and not a need like a pan. Furthermore, it feels like he wanted the pan more than me. He tried to frame it as a way that we could cook together more, or that it's somehow a great practical gift that I can get daily use out of. The gifts that I get him have been consistently meaningful, personalized and special just for him, and I feel it's important to note that I had to talk him down from getting himself a new GPU for his computer and giving me his old GPU as a birthday gift. He thinks that I'm ungrateful, and I just spent my birthday evening crying and just wanting to run away. But I just cannot get across to him why the pan is just a representation of more work for me. Meanwhile, we are going to Singapore for his birthday. I feel hurt, I feel unheard, and wound up apologizing because I wanted it to stop, and he made me feel horrible for all of this. So truly, can anyone please provide me with some extra help as to how I can tell him that this has upset me? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Oh man, I cannot believe that your partner literally gave you a frying pan for your birthday. I'm sorry, but that is not a gift. That's something that he wanted, and he's like, oh look, we can cook stuff together. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? This was clearly something he wanted, and he's using you as an excuse. So yeah, if I was in your shoes, I'd be pissed off as well, because this, in my opinion, can hardly even be called a gift in the first place. I am truly sick and tired of dealing with customers who don't know how to read the menu from our restaurant, but then proceed to complain about the food as soon as they get it, because at this point, I truly am done with this kind of behavior. Here's what happened. For a bit of context, I work in a franchise Japanese ramen restaurant, and I came to take care of a table that had an issue. The customer took a bite of their food and said that she didn't like it, and clearly mentioned that she did not want it anymore. I asked her why she didn't like it, and she said she didn't like the legs. I explained the whole soft-shell crab is 100% edible, and it's served Japanese style. I mentioned to her that it would not be removed from the bill, as the menu states exactly what the menu item is. I suggested to her that she can order another appetizer, which would be added to the bill, but she refuses. She then says that she doesn't want the bun, so I threw it away, which by the way is our protocol. Well, after checking in with them again, she then says she wants the bun again because it will be on the bill, but I told her that I threw it away because you didn't want it. She then requests another manager, and I told her I'm the only shift manager on duty at this time. She then requested my name, so I gave it to her. She became aggravated from that point on, and I offered to remake the bun for her, to which she requested it for takeout, and I said yes. I suggested that we can package the soft shell crab separately from the bun, and she agreed. So I bring the takeout to the table, and she proceeds to change her mind again, and tells me that she's going to have it for here now. She puts it on the plate, and she eats the bun, and kept the soft shell crab separate, and she stated so I could expect it. She then requests us to cut off the legs for her, and I asked the kitchen, and they said yes. I then come back to the table to explain we are willing to remove the legs for her, but she then looks at me with a dirty stare, and asks for the bill instead. We remade the bun and gave her 10% off instead. After that whole ordeal, I was slightly annoyed that she didn't even bother eating the soft-shell crab for the remade dish, and only the bun considering the circumstances. I mean, I really don't understand people like this. The item that was ordered is called a soft-shell crab bun. The description clearly states what the menu item is, so I'm honestly just so blown away by dealing with annoying customers like this, who clearly don't know how to read the menu, or even ask for their dish to be modified. Oh man, I really understand where the original poster is coming from, because when I worked in food service, I ran into this all the time. People literally don't read the menu, and then they're like, wait a second, I don't like this. And it's like, what are you talking about? There's literally a detailed description. What part of soft-shell crab bun do you not understand? You take a soft-shell crab, you put it in a bun, and then bam, you've got the item. Like, that really is not that hard. But instead, she decides to make a big fuss about it and be like, oh, I want a manager, and then goes on this useless wild goose chase just to make everybody's life miserable. So yeah, I really feel for the original poster here, because customers who act this way are truly obnoxious. My boyfriend canceled an international trip that we had scheduled so that he could go to a wedding at the last second, and now as a result, I've decided to break up with my boyfriend because I feel this has ruined our relationship. Here's what happened. Okay, so a few weeks ago, my boyfriend tells me he wants to take me on a nice international vacation. To preface this, we have been dating for a few months now, and we've been on one small trip ever since we started dating. Now, when he told me about this trip he wanted to take, I said yes, and I was excited. I took off of work, I put in my PTO, we booked the hotel, and I had the flights lined up. Now, we talked about the trip a lot, as it was supposed to be only a few weeks from now. Well, a few days ago, he tells me I will never believe what he got in the mail. mail. Of course, my mind goes in 1,000,000 directions, but before I can say anything, he blurts out and tells me that he got an invite to his friend's wedding. Apparently, it didn't come in the mail until just now, and it is the same weekend as our vacation. And he is so bummed out because he was looking forward to the trip. He literally just flat out told me the trip is off. No mature conversation was held, and he said it as fast as he could to just tell me. Now, of course, I was hurt by this, and honestly, I was in shock. It happened so fast. He showed me the invite, and the second I looked at it, I said to him, "I've seen this invitation in your house for a month." He then doubled down and said he just got it, even though I have 100% seen this invite in his kitchen before. And honestly, who gets a wedding invite only weeks in advance? My feelings were hurt. He said we could rebook it if I wanted to, but I didn't have a desire. Instead of sitting me down and talking through it, he just told me in one sentence that he's bummed because he can't make it anymore because he couldn't miss his frat brother's wedding. I told him, of course, mistakes happen, and I 100% understand not being able to miss a wedding like that, nor would I want him to. But the way he went about it was shady and really dismissive of how I felt. So I canceled my PTO, I canceled the hotel that I booked, and I felt pretty kicked to the curb. I could tell he wanted to gloss over it when I called out that I had seen the invite before, and he got pretty upset about that. I then told him a few days later to let the dust settle and all that I just feel pretty bummed out about all of this. But he still did not get why it hurt my feelings and asked me, okay, well, what's so wrong in pushing the trip back a few months? I then told him we should no longer see each other because we have very different ways in which we communicate and go about handling a disagreement. Now, of course, he was upset with me and thinks I'm crazy, but I have to protect my peace and my heart. So has anyone here experienced something like this before? Or have any of you been in the boat of feeling this way? I'm honestly so heartbroken that I now don't know what to do. Okay, first and foremost, you have every reason to be upset about this. Your boyfriend not only hyped up an international trip, but he got you all excited for it, only to then cancel it as if you have no say in the matter. You spent all this money booking a flight, booking hotels, as well as putting time in off of work. So for him to be like, oh yeah, we're not doing that anymore, sorry, I'm going to a wedding instead. Like, what is going on? That's not okay. You can't just do that suddenly. That's not fair for the original poster at all. And if you ask me, I bet he did know about this wedding, but he probably forgot about it and now he's scrambling to figure things out. And I also just love the way he tried to like spin this in a different way, where he's trying to be like, oh yeah, we're just pushing the trip back, what's the problem? But it's like, nope, that's not what happened. You said you wanted to cancel the trip altogether. This was not a conversation about pushing the trip back. This was you canceling so you could go to your friend's wedding, which by the way, you could have done both, but instead you lost your girlfriend. So no, I don't blame you for a second for being mad about this, because if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. Am I the jerk for turning down $2,000 from my father after he basically offered it to me so that I would change the date of my wedding? Because right now, I'm convinced that none of my family members will show up due to their religious reasons. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my fiance and I have been together for 5 years and engaged for 3. We set a wedding date, but we had to postpone due to other financial responsibilities. And we now have it set for June of 2025. We had a difficult time finding a venue, so the second we did, we made a deposit and set the date in stone. And the date we picked is the biggest issue with my family. So for context, my family is extremely religious. I grew up in the religion, and the second I turned 18, I left it. I live in the same town as my family, and I've not wanted to cut all ties with them, so I try to be as respectful of their beliefs as I can. They're against things like all jewelry, even wedding bands and strapless dresses, and anything immodest and so on. Dancing, music, and alcohol are also evil to them. Basically, all aspects of a wedding reception. I have even had emotional moments knowing that I will never have a father-daughter dance because my dad is so against it. Anyways, due to our schedule and many of our guests' schedule, our wedding will be on a Saturday, which is my family's religious day. I've also paid the venue to reserve Sunday for cleanup so that people can return to work by Monday. Well, I've gotten grief about this from all of my family, including my sisters, because they feel like this is breaking their religious day. This has been very irritating, and one sister has been manipulative about it, but I got through it and thought they have accepted it. Well, that was not at all the case. I will also point out that our wedding is entirely on my fiance and I financially, and it is possible but definitely a strain. I got the invitations made and sent, and I received a text from my father. He asked me if there's any way he could convince me to change the date to Sunday. I said to him, I'm sorry, but no. To which he responded by saying, even for $2,000? Now, I took this extremely offensively at first, like he was bribing me to change my wedding date, that he is able and willing to help financially, but only if it aligns with him. After cooling down, I gave a very diplomatic response, telling him that I've already paid for the venue, and this would not be possible. I also explained that I understand my family's beliefs, and I know that they will not be able to help set up or anything like that, that, and will be there for the ceremony as I expect them to leave before the reception. I also told him that he could give a financial gift at any time for our wedding or the honeymoon on the fund that I set up. Quite honestly, I do not want any of my family at the reception because they will be uncomfortable and judging everyone the entire time. So am I the jerk for turning down the $2,000? Because seriously, this would help immensely. Should my family be welcome at my reception, or should I just disinvite them altogether? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Okay, for starters, I don't blame you for turning down the money, but also you absolutely should welcome your family no matter what. Like for me, I would absolutely be like, okay, here's an invitation. I want you to be there. If you can't be there for religious reasons, then fine, I understand. But at least you sent out the invitation and you can be the bigger person. What they choose to do from there on is up to them. But honestly, I'm so glad you turned down the $2,000 because in my mind, that absolutely sounded like a bribe. These people wouldn't help with your wedding, but instead was like, okay, for $2,000, change the date and then we'll go. And it's like, wait a second, that is so unfair to me. So to that extent, I completely understand where you're coming from. This behavior is absolutely atrocious and I don't blame you for being upset. So no, you're definitely not the jerk for turning your dad down because the way he's acting, in my opinion, as well as the rest of your family, is honestly incredibly entitled. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for not putting a Christmas tree up this year? All because it's a painful reminder that my grandmother just passed away. Because right now, my family is on my case, saying that my kids deserve to have a tree and that because I'm choosing not to have one, I'm a horrible and worthless mother. Because right now, I feel very hurt and I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I'm sure this sounds bad, but please let me explain. I'm a 25-year-old female, and I recently just lost my grandmother only a few days before Thanksgiving. I have been dealing with this awful grief ever since then, barely able to get out of bed and sobbing myself to sleep. My grandmother had practically raised me my entire life, working hard to provide me with a good life and teaching me to be a strong woman who could survive this harsh world. Now, I have two children who are 5 years old, and my boyfriend, who we will call Victor, is their father. Ever since she passed away, Victor's been trying his absolute best to comfort me. He has thankfully never lost someone, so he's unsure of how to properly do it. He's also been decorating the house for me, as Christmas is his favorite holiday. Now, I appreciate it a lot, I really do, and I feel selfish that I cannot show it to him. Our children have also been asking for a Christmas tree so that my grandmother can help them decorate it. They don't understand that she's gone, and it hurts to explain to them that she sadly is not coming this Christmas. And you know what? I simply can't do it. It hurts too much to get our tree and decorate it all without her. It seriously just feels wrong. I've expressed this to Victor, and he understands that I just can't do it this year, but my family thinks that's a big issue. I made the mistake of letting my sister watch my children when Victor had to work and I couldn't get up, because when she had asked them where the tree was, they said that mommy doesn't want to have a tree because grandma isn't coming. Now, I do not blame my children in the slightest for this. They are just kids who don't understand, but now I'm being bothered endlessly and basically bullied by my own family who claim that I'm a horrible and worthless mother for not getting my kids a Christmas tree. I've tried to explain to all of them why I can't do it, but they just say that it's a selfish reason not to. They basically said to me, "We don't care if you're grieving, it's about the kids, and you are ruining it for them. A real mother makes sacrifices for her kids no matter what." Now, Victor has been backing me up this entire time, and even his family as well. Victor also thinks it's stupid of them to even say that, saying that Christmas will happen whether there's a tree or not, but they all refuse to listen. I'm starting to really think that I'm an awful mom for denying my children a tree, but at this point, I'm honestly not sure what to do. Oh man, first and foremost, I'm so sorry that you lost your grandma, because that really is awful. Like, you don't deserve that in the slightest. But truly, the way your family's acting about this, in my opinion, is completely inappropriate. There is no reason they should be treating you this way. It is highly insensitive, and truly, it's like invading on your privacy. Because in my opinion, I think you're completely in the right for not having a Christmas tree up if you don't want one. Like, you literally just lost someone who was really important in your life, and the Christmas tree was something that she was very highly involved with. So it makes complete sense to me why you would be apprehensive about doing it this year. The original poster did go on to say that they are going to have a small Christmas tree and that the children will be helping make an ornament in their grandmother's honor, which I think is fantastic. Like, that really is very cool. So even though your family was treating you like garbage, I really hope you're able to find some kind of solace this Christmas, because their behavior towards you, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. My toxic entitled father demands that I stay in his house and never move out, claiming that I'm not ready to be an adult and live on my own, despite the fact that I'm 20 years old. Because right now, I feel so frustrated that I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I've been struggling financially ever since I became an adult due to unstable jobs, unemployment, and random car repairs. I've lived with my parents since I was 15 years old, so they feel that they need to raise me again again, since my grandparents did it incorrectly. The problem is they are still treating me as if I'm a teenager that needs constant parental control and supervision, even though I'm 20 years old, and it's really messing with my mental health. When I was 19, I finally acquired a stable job and a car, so I tried to move into my friend's house. My mom was okay with it as long as I am happy and safe, but my dad absolutely freaked out. He told me I'm making a stupid decision and that I will mess the whole family and my future over if I do this. And overall, he was just trying his hardest to guilt trip me into thinking that I'm doing something wrong just by leaving. When I did pack up my most valuable stuff and leave, my dad begged me to come back home and to talk it out with him. He wanted me to work on the business he spent all his money on. I foolishly obliged, and when I came home, he spent 3 hours trying to talk me out of it, and I just listened to him patiently. Then, when it was finally my turn to speak, I tried to remind him that I am a legal adult, even if I don't look like one, and I will be fine on my own. He wouldn't even let me get through 2 sentences before he interrupted me and started screaming. He said to me, "No, that's childish. You are foolish and childish. You are not an adult. Your frontal lobe isn't even fully developed. You can't make it on your own. This isn't the 1950s. And when he said this really made me feel like garbage, and I knew he planned on using that dialogue no matter what I tried to retort with, and neither of us were going to change our minds no matter what. Eventually, we made an agreement that I will pay a small amount of rent to my friends for a room in their house, but I would also spend half of my week at my parents' house and go back and forth from there. He used the business we started as an excuse to keep me there, always calling me and cutting my time short, demanding that I come home because there's work that needs to be done. I didn't want to ruin our relationship because he spent a lot of money getting it started, but it hasn't really gone anywhere even though I do work on it. Anyways, my original plan was to just slowly move all my stuff to my friend's house, and eventually I will fully move in with my friends. This was a few months back, and I knew he was being awful and manipulative, but I wasn't sure how else to deal with it. About a month and a half into this ordeal, someone crashed into my car and destroyed it, and because of this, I lost my job, meaning that I could no longer pay rent, and I was forced to move back in with my parents. When the insurance finally paid out, I accidentally bought a lemon of a car, and it bankrupted me with a bunch of random mechanical issues, and in the end, it left me stranded on the side of the road with a $500 tow yard fee that was paid by my mom because I already spent all my money from my new job on the last repair. Well, a few weeks ago, I bought an old running car from a family friend for about $250, and I spent all of my last paycheck getting the tires replaced and fixing the transmission problem that it had. Thankfully, my mechanic said that this car was in way better shape than the other two combined, so I shouldn't have to worry about unexpected future repairs eating my wallet up. I'm currently broke and in debt to my mom because she helped me pay for a new car and my repairs, not to mention the tow yard and literally everything. I will be able to pay her off with my next paycheck, but it will eat up about half of it. They found a house they like that's closer to my job, which is about 15 minutes away instead of 45 minutes away, and since they applied to rent it and I didn't want to leave them in the mud, I agreed to help them rent it and send my pay stubs. Now, I think I might have made a mistake, but I honestly just don't know what else I'm supposed to do. My parents expect me to live with them until I finish school, and I just don't want that. My dad is delusional, and he thinks I need to be protected and that I'm immediately going to become homeless or kidnapped or whatever if I move out. So he expects me to live with them until I finish school. But I hate living with my parents because even though they look out for me and they feed me and always save me when I have to pay for something, my dad has an extremely toxic and clingy personality, and I'm not happy having to deal with him every single day. He's always insulting and demeaning my hobbies and acting like I'm wasting my time when I'm being creative and working on my own personal projects. Whenever he comes home from work and I'm in my room, he calls my cell phone and acts like I'm doing something wrong by having alone time. And it's like, God forbid I'm doing art instead of being in the living room, rewatching some stupid show with him, or just doing chores. He's always making my dating life his business and trying to give his advice or input when I just don't want it. He will always ask if every girl I go on a date with is my girlfriend now, and I think it's really frustrating and uncomfortable how he forces me to label what I'm doing, as well as tell him what I'm up to all the time. Every time I'm out of the house outside of my work hours, he just has to call me and ask me what I'm doing, and if I don't answer the phone, he gets really pissed off when I get home and tells me how worried he was and how awful it was of me not to tell him, even though I do it because I'm trying to prove the point that I'm independent and that I will just call them if it's an emergency. I know I still look like a troubled teenager in his eyes, but I really am an adult, and I honestly hate being around him every single day because I hate how he treated me when I was 17, and I think our personalities just clash too much, and we really aren't compatible to live together without fighting for control and my own privacy. I know for a fact that I would have created and sold so much more art if it weren't for him always trying to shut my creativity down and getting mad at me for wasting my time doing personal projects instead of doing my chores or whatever. He is just overall very manipulative and clingy and controlling, and I feel as if I can't fully be myself and reach my full potential as long as I live with him, because he always has to use his parental authority on me. I'm not okay with the way he continues to treat me like a child, and I just desperately want to live on my own without him constantly taking my spare time, as well as him getting in my business and having to listen to him throw an adult temper tantrum at least once a week. I'm just trying to figure out how to get my own place without his interference. I already have a few friends who would be down for me to move in with them, and at this point, I think I'm just gonna save up for my own rental and post my room on Facebook and Craigslist so I can move and find someone to take my place just so rent can get paid and they don't get evicted. Because right now, I seriously feel stuck and I don't know what to do. Wow, your dad sounds awful and I don't blame you for wanting to move out. First and foremost, you definitely should have ignored him when he's like, oh please come back to the house, let's talk about this. Because you've got it right, you literally are 20 years old and you don't have to live with him if you don't want to. So it does suck how he kind of like brought you back into the house even though you didn't want to be there, but honestly, at least you now know that you don't want to live with him. You feel like your progress as an adult has been completely stifled, and you know for a fact that you're just going to be miserable if you stay in his house. So truly, I hope you're able to get out of there and find some other place to live, because your dad sounds like an absolute nightmare to deal with. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not taking down a restaurant review that somehow really enraged the owners of the restaurant that I went to? Because right now there's a lot of friction in my friend group, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so a friend of mine of about 20 years invited me to join her for Thanksgiving dinner at a restaurant. I've always cooked myself, so I thought it might be a cool change of tradition. Out of 8 of us, only 2 of us ordered the traditional turkey dinner. The turkey was tender and juicy, and the bread and cranberries were great, but the rest was either watery, bland, or raw. Biting into raw stuffing is just gross. Now, I was disappointed and I left a 3-star review, but in the review, I praised the staff with 5 stars for the excellent service and the wonderful ambiance that they provided, and then I described the food issues. 3 days later, my friend called me stating that the owners of the restaurant went through their reservations from Thanksgiving and called customers to find out whose party I was in. The owners then contacted my sister's friend, who for reference is the one that made the reservation, where they complained to her about my review, asking her to tell me to take the review down immediately. I couldn't believe the owners would call her rather than reply to my review, asking me to talk in some way. But I was also shocked to find my friend's sister took my dislike of the food so personally. Now, my friend's sister is angry at me, causing all kinds of friction. Had the restaurant owners reached out to me personally, I would have obliged and taken the review down, but they blindly called people who made reservations just to find me, instigating this drama in the first place. I don't know what they said to my friend's sister, but whatever it was, her sister is no longer speaking to me. What's even more confusing is figuring out what would prompt the owners to take the review so badly. They had a 4.7-star rating before I wrote my review, and they had the same rating even after my review, so it clearly wasn't damaging. In the review, I even mentioned how I'd be returning to try a different meal because the staff was exceptional, and that my bad experience with the food might have been a fluke. So truly, am I the jerk for not taking down the review? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Oh man, this is absolutely not your fault in the slightest, because seriously, what's wrong with the owners? First of all they had to do was contact you through the review. They could have been like, hey, I'm so sorry you didn't like your food, and then had some kind of like accommodation or something. Like that really would be the mature thing to do in this situation. But instead, they decide, oh, we're gonna call everybody and demand that you take it down. Because if that happened to me, I would be like, oh, you just went from a 3-star review to a 1-star review. Like, what's going on right now? That's so stupid that they did that. Like, they literally went on a witch hunt just to find you specifically. Is that what they do with everybody who gives a bad rating? Which, by the way, a 3-star rating isn't that bad. Like, sure, the food kind of sucked, but the staff harbored a good environment. Clearly, the original poster had every intention of coming back, but it's like, wow, now I'm definitely never coming back. So no, you're not the jerk for not taking down that review, because the way this restaurant responded to that, in my opinion, is absolutely ridiculous. Am I the jerk for refusing to babysit my niece at the last minute after my sister said that she had a work emergency? Because right now, I'm being called selfish for not dropping what I'm doing and taking care of her. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I work full-time and recently started taking evening classes to finish my degree. My schedule is packed, and I rely on my evenings to study or attend classes. My sister, who we will call Emily, has a 4-year-old daughter who we will call Lily. I love my niece and I've babysat her many times when she's asked me in advance. But last week, Emily called me about an hour before my class, asking me if I could watch Lily for a few hours. She said that she and her husband both had work emergencies, but I told her I had an important class that evening, which included a review session for an upcoming exam. I apologized but said that I couldn't miss it and that she would need to figure something else out. Well, Emily ended up calling our mom, who was able to go over there and watch Lily, but now she's upset with me and says I was selfish for not helping out when she really needed it. She said that she would not have asked unless it was a real emergency. My mom also mentioned that I could have made it work since Emily has a lot on her plate with her job and being a mom. I feel bad for saying no, but I also feel like I have valid reasons. So am I the jerk for sticking to my plans instead of helping her out? Because right now I really don't know what to do. Okay, this is so obvious it's not even funny, but seriously, no, you are not the jerk here. Why should you have to drop what you're doing just to take care of your sister, who clearly could have asked your mom first instead of you? Like, that really is so stupid that anyone would get upset about this, because you have upcoming exams. You're a full-time student. You've got a lot on your plate. Just because you're not a mom doesn't mean that you're not also incredibly busy. And seriously, in my opinion, someone else's lack of planning is not your emergency. And sure, I get it. There's work stuff that she needs to take care of, but she's really trying to make this sound like this was some life or death situation. Like, if it really is that bad, then guess what? It looks like you're taking your kid with you to work. So no, of course you're not the jerk. You clearly could not accommodate her at the drop of a hat. And the fact that she would expect that out of you, in my opinion, is absolutely insane. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my boyfriend's brother stay with us after we get married? Because right now I'm considering dumping my boyfriend, as this really has become a hot topic of discussion. Here's what happened. Okay, so my boyfriend and I have been together for 4 years, and we're planning to get married in 2 to 3 years. His family lives overseas, and he's been independent since a very young age. Future plans have been coming up, including his wish for his 15-year-old brother to move here in about 2 to 3 years. He wants him to finish up high school and attend college while living with him. Now, we currently live separate and decided not to move in until marriage, and our relationship overall has been respectful and communicative, even though the last year has been rocky, primarily due to family-related issues. My issue is that if we're planning to get married in 2 to 3 years, and his brother comes to live with him, then that would mean that our married life would start off with 3 people in the family. I have told him that if his brother is coming here to finish high school and not be an adult yet, then he can stay with us. While this would make me somewhat uncomfortable to start my marriage and a house with my husband and his brother, I understand that his teenage brother would not be able to live by himself. However, my boyfriend is persistent on having his brother stay with him even after he starts college and finishes college. Now, to give a bit of context, I have spent time with his family to get to know them. His brother looks up to my boyfriend a lot. He has love and respect for him and would do almost anything that my boyfriend tells him to do. However, his attitude towards me is not the same. He often is very disrespectful towards me, calling me names jokingly, or even treats me like I'm not better than anyone in his family. But his family just laughs it off, saying that he's just being a teenager. Now, like I mentioned earlier, while I don't have any siblings, my cousins are the closest to me, and some are around the same age as my boyfriend's brother, and they have never been rude to my boyfriend. If there was a time where they have, I've made it clear that it was not okay. Therefore, I expect the same respect from my boyfriend. I suggested that his brother can stay with us until he's about 18 years old. However, after he turns 18, he would have to move out, and this would also be when he goes to college after high school. Furthermore, if my boyfriend is worried about his brother, then we can have him live next door, just as long as it's not under the same roof and I get my own privacy in my own home. However, my boyfriend did not like this idea. We had a lot of arguments about this, and my boyfriend would not budge from this decision. At this point, I've told him that if after we get married, I cannot spend private time with my husband, then I would not be okay with continuing this relationship. My boyfriend then accused me of trying to keep his family away from him. He went as far as to tell me that because I'm an only child, I never understood the value of family, and now I'm just upset. I feel disrespected, I'm hurt, and I'm heartbroken. I have thought about all of this for a while, and I've decided that if my boyfriend and I are not on the same page about this, it would be best to break up and go our separate ways. And to this, my boyfriend accused me of giving him an ultimatum. So truly, am I the jerk here for not wanting his brother to move in with us? Because right now, I don't know what to do. Okay, I completely agree with the original poster here, because what the boyfriend's asking, in my opinion, is very intrusive. For starters, the teenage brother is an absolute piece of garbage. He treats you poorly and everyone just kind of laughs it off. And it's like, no, this is not some normal teenage behavior, because clearly it can be corrected with the original poster's family, so why can't it be corrected with this kid? And I completely understand her rationale too. She would literally be starting starting out her marriage with another person in the house. And I don't know about you, but that sounds obnoxious to deal with. So no, you're not the jerk for making this kind of boundary known, because in my opinion, what's being asked of you is absolutely unacceptable. My boyfriend got really angry with me and my friends at a dinner celebrating my graduation, claiming that I'm not actually that smart and that I only got as far as I did because I'm privileged. So now I feel like my relationship with him is falling apart because at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I've completed my last final for my postgraduate school, and I decided to go out with some friends, and my boyfriend came along with me. He was relatively quiet, but he is not usually talkative with my friends, which is never a problem. But eventually, he started behaving strangely. I asked my friend to take a picture of me and him, and he refused. I asked if he could just take one for memory's sake, and he again said no. And we're talking, he was acting annoyed and he was really pouting. So I just dropped it and said okay. Now keep in mind, my boyfriend doesn't have a college degree, which I never cared about as it doesn't bother me. His family wasn't in a great financial situation, so he had to sacrifice a lot, which I completely understand. When we got dessert, my friends got a candle and asked the waiter to sing happy birthday as a joke. You know, just us having some silly fun. I blew out the candle and tried to feed the first bite to my boyfriend, and he said he didn't want it and that he's not hungry. And since I didn't want to push it, I just ate it myself. When we got in his car, I said that he smelled nice and that he looked so handsome. And then I tried to kiss him and he told me to stop. Because we were alone, I asked him why he was upset with me, and he just started ranting and raving. He said me and my friends are so annoying. We're apparently out of touch with reality, stating that we're spoiled and brainless, and all we care about is dinners and makeup and superficial stuff, and we're so stupid for ordering cake and getting a candle. I was like, okay, where's this even coming from? We've been together for a year and he's never seemed to have any issue with my personality before, but he said he just realized it right then and there. Then he continued ranting and saying I'm not actually that smart. I'm just privileged and only successful because I had a good upbringing and other people didn't have the same opportunities. And sure, I know he's technically right, but it just feels awful to be told all of it when I was just celebrating. I know he's felt insecure about himself in the past, but I always reassured him that I find him really intelligent and mature and respectable, even if he doesn't have a degree. I wouldn't even be with him if I didn't think he was smart or if I didn't respect him. We got back to our apartment and he just sulked around and refused to talk to me. And even now, he's still not talking to me. So now I feel like I'm at an impasse because right now I don't know what to do. Oh wow, your boyfriend is completely out of line here. He basically just said out loud that he doesn't like your personality and that he thinks you're not smart and that you're just privileged. And it's like, whoa buddy, what are we talking about here? This is such a leap in judgment, it's not even funny. Like his attitude is completely off and you do not deserve that in the slightest. Because clearly your boyfriend is either jealous or incredibly toxic towards you. And in my opinion, you can do way better than what he's offering. Am I the jerk for asking my roommate to not use our living space as her office when she works from home? Because right now it's disrupting my entire life, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So ever since lockdown, my housemate and I have worked from home at least a couple times a week, and our living room, dining room, and kitchen are all an open plan. Now I have a desk in my bedroom, but she doesn't have one in hers. So whenever she works from home, she turns the dining room table into her office and I'm working from my bedroom. And there are a few things worth pointing out here. By her own admission, she is very loud. She plays loud music, works through lunch, and she is a workaholic who will regularly work well into the evening. She also beats her keyboard into so much submission that you can hear it from the other side of the apartment. I'm very conscious that too much working from home isn't good for my mental health, so I really try to up my office attendance. All the same, when I'm home, I feel like my use of our shared living space isn't being respected. When we're both here during a workday, I feel trapped in my bedroom, unable to take breaks in the living room and just relax. And then in the evening, I can't relax while she's using the space, even if she doesn't play music or take calls. I've called her up on this and said that I'd like the living space to be work-free from 5 o'clock p.m. all the way until nighttime, stating that if she needs to work late, she needs to go to the office. I've also asked for us to avoid working from home at the same time so I can use the living space when I'm here. I mean, after all, I shouldn't be disadvantaged for being the one with a desk in my room, but she thinks that I'm being too demanding and that she has a right to do what she's doing. She thinks that so long as she isn't taking calls or playing music, she can work from the living space as late as she wants. But I strongly disagree. So seriously, am I the jerk here? Am I being too demanding, or is she just being too entitled? Because right now I really don't know what to do. Okay, I completely agree with the original poster because their roommate is being super entitled right now. Like seriously, what's their problem? Sure, they have every right to do that, but it's clearly like disrupting the space. And I'm pretty sure if you match fire with fire in this situation, situation, she's gonna hate you and want to move out or something like that, because you very easily could still go in the living room and make a lot of noise while she's doing her thing. And if she were to complain, you could be like, well, I live here too, I can do whatever I want. So truly, the fact that your roommate's acting like that, in my opinion, is super annoying, and I don't blame you for getting frustrated in the slightest. My entitled mom demands that I turn back on my tracking system on my phone so that she can know my GPS location whenever she wants. But after getting interrogated by her nonstop, as well as dealing with her constant questions about where I'm at, I decided to cut her off, causing her to lose her mind and accuse me of lying and trying to hide things from her. And now I seriously don't know what to do. This story also came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. So I'm a 24-year-old female, and I still live at home with my parents because honestly, I just cannot afford rent on my own right now. I am working on it, but it is a process. A while ago, I added my family to Find My Friends because it did seem harmless at the time. I don't mind if they know where I am, and I'm honestly pretty chill about it. But here's the thing, my mom is constantly checking my location. It's not just her saying, hey, what are you up to? Instead, it's a full-on interrogation. If I'm anywhere that she doesn't recognize, she will call or text me non-stop, asking me who I'm with and why I'm there, not to mention what I'm doing. It's honestly been making me feel like I can't live my own life without her micromanaging me. And the worst part about it is that I've been seeing someone for a couple of months now. The first time I went to his house, I told my mom and she completely freaked out. She spam called me telling me that it was too soon and that I shouldn't get intimate with him. I felt so embarrassed, like I was back in high school or something like that. So now I've started lying, saying that I'm just with friends or out doing random things to avoid interrogation. But here's where I might be the jerk. When I finally turned off location sharing for a bit, because it was honestly getting ridiculous, my mom went off on me. She said to me, I'm your mother and I'm just worried about you, and you should be grateful I even care. And now because of this, she's accusing me of lying and hiding things from her. I get that she's worried, but I'm an adult, and honestly, I just want some privacy. So seriously, am I the jerk for refusing to share my location with her? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Yeah, your mom is absolutely out of line. The fact that she's freaking out on you because you turned off your location tracking, all because she was being a weirdo about it, in my opinion, is completely justified. Like, who in their right mind would go to their 24-year-old daughter and be like, you need to turn that on right now. You shouldn't be at your boyfriend's house. How dare you do that? Because at that point, if I was in the original poster's shoes, then I absolutely would have to be like, yeah, I gotta start lying to this lady because she's being so weird. So to the original poster, no, you don't have to turn on your location, and you're definitely not the jerk for deciding to cut her out. Because the way she's acting, in my opinion, is incredibly toxic, and you do not deserve that kind of interrogation in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for asking my ex-roommate to show receipts for the things they claim they paid, as they describe them as miscellaneous expenses? Because right now, I'm incredibly frustrated and I now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my ex-housemate, who we will call Sandra for the sake of the story, had to leave quite suddenly due to a job falling through and visa issues, and I had to shortly move out to a different place because I couldn't find someone to fill the room. We split expenses where Sandra would pay for the electricity and I would pay for the internet and the water, and we would split cleaning supplies evenly and record all of it. Now, Sandra moved out at the end of September, and yes, I know it's now December, but I've been chasing them to settle our split in money ever since the end of October, which is when the lease office officially finished, and we had our final split of small things to fix at the end of the lease. Sandra has been saying for months that they would need to update the Splitwise for cleaning and miscellaneous things that they had purchased much earlier in the year, and that they forgot to put on Splitwise. Now, their evidence of this was a picture of a bundle of receipts that were completely unreadable in the photo that were all in a Ziploc bag. After weeks of chasing them and Sandra saying they will do it tomorrow, or even them saying they'll do it this week, I promise, they finally uploaded a bulk Splitwise entry of over $250 worth of cleaning and miscellaneous expenses. Now, I was in shock because typically I would purchase most of the cleaning stuff, which our cleaner requested me to specifically buy. I asked them to clarify what miscellaneous meant, and that's when they accused me of implying that they are lying about the expenses and that they're not showing the specific receipts. To make matters worse, I found out recently after ringing the previous electric company that the $900 electric bill, which by the way was 2 months worth because they forgot to pay, is still all outstanding and it hasn't been paid. But they had the audacity to record it on our Splitwise account as being paid off. Now, I haven't brought this particular issue up, and I kept it up my sleeve because it's in their name. And at the end of the day, I just want to be reimbursed for the things I have specifically paid for, which we agreed to split. Having to follow this person up each time and them lying about this is exhausting. At the end of the day, it's just a couple $100 or so, and I'm wondering whether it's worth my time at all. I've mentally accepted the fact that I may not get anything back, so getting something back is great. But after all the lies, it's kind of turning into a principle thing. We are also living in different countries and time zones, which really drags things out even more. What should I do? Oh man, this is an awful situation because I hate to say it, but you are probably never getting any money from this roommate. I guarantee you they're gonna stop communicating with you and they're gonna run off and be like, oh well, these are my items that I'm writing off. Sorry, but I'm not gonna pay anything more than this. Like seriously, that's exactly what they're doing. They're not gonna pay what they have to pay and they're gonna cut and run because you said it yourself. They're in a different country and they're in a different time zone. They've already basically gotten away from you, so it's like, what can you possibly do about it? I don't even know if there's anything legally you can do in the first place. It just sounds like you have a crappy roommate and now you have to pay the price for that. And that's really not fair and you definitely do not deserve that. So truly, I'm so sorry you're going through this and hopefully there's some kind of solution. My entitled neighbors give us one of their cats only to then come back and demand we hand the cat back over. But after we denied their request, they started spreading a false rumor around the neighborhood that we had stolen the cat from them. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of important context, I live in a tiny rustic town with only a few thousand people, and my home is a condo. This is a type of house that has multiple living units on one property. We shared a driveway and a backyard, only separated by a line of weak, rotted fencing. Now, this began on a day I was home alone when I was around 16 or 17 years old. My mom went shopping with my younger sister and left the back door open for our elderly dog, who at the time liked going outside to sit under the tree or use the bathroom as needed. As I was in the living room, a strange shape appeared in the hallway of a new creature we definitely didn't have. It was a kitten so tiny I didn't think it could even walk at that size. I rushed up and quickly herded her over into another room away from the dog, seeing how she walked in from our open back door. After I looked her over, she was tiny and relatively happy but very tired. It's also important to note that she was missing a foot. I let her sleep on the couch as I texted my mother about the situation and she rushed home. The kitten didn't have a collar and we weren't about to release her back outside again. After she came home, my mother spoke to the surrounding neighbors to find the owner. She eventually talked to the neighbors in the unit next to us. Now, we had already had issues with the people in the next unit before for more petty reasons, but nothing we bothered to start a fight over. And this would be things like revving a motorcycle at 11 o'clock at night on the lawn or causing a rat problem in the shared walls. So when she knocked, the tension was high, but they explained the situation. The mother of the family said her cat recently had kittens. She had gotten out one night and met a stray tomcat. She had a large litter that caused restricted womb space, making some kittens not fully develop, which would explain why the kitten had a missing foot. They also said they had left the door open and all the kittens had escaped. Now, they did not want the kittens back and didn't care what we did with the one that we found. She had crawled through the shared rotted fence to get into our yard. So, as the cat distribution system works, we decided to take on the kitten. Although at first, there was hesitation due to the existing animal in the house. So we called it a day and let her sleep in my bedroom to keep the dog and the cat apart as we decided what to do by the morning. As morning came around, we decided to go with an official adoption after seeing if the dog would harm her. Thankfully, we found he had no interest and was plenty retired from chasing cats. So this is where we began with the official process. First, we took her to the store to get cat supplies. We needed a food bowl, a bed, a litter box, some kitten meal, and some new toys chosen by the cat herself. And to our surprise, the neighbors were at the store as well. And I suppose that's the perk of living in an almost village area. Well, they just stared at us and I just slipped off to find some more toys, feeling the discomfort. As I was gone, they approached my mother and shared some short words of congratulations on the new cat, but didn't say much else before leaving. After that, we took her to the vet for an examination, and then we got her registered. After getting the vaccines, checking on her disabled leg, and doing a general exam, the vet officialized the ownership with medical papers of her appointment and updated shots. We chose a name and she was now legally ours. The vet also told us the count of kittens that recently came in, accounting for the entire litter finding owners around the neighborhood. We were the last to bring the kitten in because of our decision decision on if we should adopt or not. We were informed she wasn't the only one with a missing foot either, which is another perk of a small town. Only one vet that everyone goes to. With that relief of news, we brought her back home and our new life with a cat began. Well, it was normal for about 2 months when things started going oddly. The neighbors suddenly asked for her back, to which my mother said absolutely not. Well, the parents insisted, saying that their little daughter wanted the kitten back and she was still theirs. My mother explained that she was registered with us now and no longer belonged to them as they voluntarily gave her up. Although they threatened to call the cops, no cops were ever called, as we legally did own her now. About a week later, there was a knock at the door. I answered it to see a little child standing on our porch. She only looked about 6 years old and had those big sad eyes asking to see the kitten. I was mostly staying out of the situation, so I called over my mother, who handled it a lot less awkwardly. She brought the cat over to show her that she was healthy and happy, but also explained that we were her family. The child looked sad and gave her a small pet and then ran back to her door. When my mother looked over, she saw the parents standing by the door glaring daggers our way. They clearly sent her over, attempting to guilt us with their kid. My mother then swiftly got her microchipped in case anything happened, as she was getting nervous about the neighbors. For a few more weeks, they continued passively asking for the cat back, before they instead changed to spreading rumors around the neighborhood. When my little sister brought a friend home from school, the friend looked at our cat and said something like, "I heard that you stole her from the kid next door. Is that true?" With shock, my mom explained absolutely not. She was relinquished and registered with us, that we cared for her, and we were the only ones that got her vaccinated and adopted her through official means. But the rumors of the cat theft continued for a while longer. Now, around the Christmas season, things suddenly took a turn when around dinner, we heard a crash from the driveway. We all rushed out to see the father had backed his truck into our car. He was backing in quickly and was very drunk. My mother called the police, only to then be told that he had no license, the car registration was expired, and he had no insurance. He then went off on my mother, claiming it was all because we were thieves and kidnapped their innocent daughter's cat. Now, I did not hesitate to run back inside and not get involved as the arguing continued. Well, less than 2 weeks later, they suddenly moved out and cut all contact. They didn't report to court or inform the police or anyone else in the county where they were going. The family fell off the map for almost a full year before a family friend ran into the father working at a gas station the next town over. My mother contacted his new job and explained the lawsuit and that she needed information to contact him, and actually got them to relinquish information so that they could send a letter to the family's mail. It took a long time to get all the needed information from the workplace, but eventually, the family was pressured into paying her the court-ordered money for the car repairs. They then tried to countersue for the theft of the cat, but it was dismissed when we provided the necessary documents of the adoption. The kitten is fully grown now, and she is a spoiled princess that runs my mother's house. I go over and visit often to see her, and I give her lots of cuddles, and we have 2 more recent rescues along with her. Unfortunately, my dog passed away in 2019, but he also lived a very happy and spoiled life. After the lawsuit was finished, we dropped contact with the family, and they stopped demanding the cat back when their countersuit was dismissed. And every so often, one of us does run into 1 or 2 of the family members, and even still to this day, they still glare at us as if we did something wrong. Wow, I cannot believe these neighbors. First and foremost, they're pieces of garbage for involving their daughter in this, but also the fact that they're like, "Oh yeah, you can have the cat," and then after you've put all the work in to get it vaccinated and officially registered, they try to be like, "Oh wait, we want the cat back, it's ours." It's like, no, it's not. You gave it up. I'm sorry, that's not gonna work that way. Like seriously, they need to get a grip and also get out of your life. And what an awesome ending to this, because you actually got your car parts paid for. Like, did they really think they could run and get away with this? That is such a sketchy thing to do to somebody, it's not even funny. So truly, I'm so glad you guys got to keep your cat, because these people do not sound like good pet owners in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not cooking a second meal for my younger siblings after they refused to eat what I made? Because right now my parents are out of town and I'm the only one taking care of everything at the house. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 16-year-old female and I have 2 younger siblings, ages 9 and 7. Our parents recently had to go on a quick trip the next state over for a meeting, but due to bad weather, they got stuck because it was really severe weather. It's been a few days, and while they've been checking in, I've had to take over everything at home, including looking after my siblings. I don't mind helping out, but it's been exhausting managing schoolwork, chores, and making sure they don't set the house on fire. Well, a few days ago, I decided to go all out and cook a proper meal for dinner. I made a spinach and cheese lasagna from scratch, which took me hours between prepping, baking, baking and cleaning up. I was really proud of it, and it smelled amazing, and it looked straight out of a food magazine. However, when I served it, the 9-year-old girl poked at it like it was toxic waste, and the 7-year-old boy flat out said, "This is gross, I want nuggets." Well, I was frustrated, but I stayed calm and I told them, "This is dinner. If you don't want it, that's fine, but I'm not making anything else." Well, they refused to eat that and just went back to watching TV. I figured they would eventually get hungry and eat, but when I checked later, they still had not eaten anything. I still tried to push them, but eventually I gave up because I had a pile of homework and I was already drained. Fast forward to the next few days when my mom called in. She asked if everything was okay, and I mentioned the lasagna incident. Well, she got upset and said something like, "Well, they have to eat something. Kids don't like that kind of stuff." I then explained that I didn't have the time or energy to whip up a second meal when I'm juggling everything else. She then got even angrier, saying that they haven't eaten much in days because they're too picky to eat what I've made. And look, I get it, they're kids, and I'm not a professional chef, but I feel like I've already done my part by cooking, cleaning, and keeping them alive. I didn't sign up to be their personal short order cook, and for context, due to the weather conditions, ordering any kind of food out is just not an option. So truly, am I really the jerk for drawing the line and not making them something else when they refuse to eat? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, no, you are definitely not the jerk. Your parents should be grateful and on their hands and knees thanking you for taking care of things. And sure, kids might not eat that kind of stuff, but guess what? They have to eat. And the fact that they're being so picky during a time like this is honestly so annoying. And if anything, maybe the parents should talk to the 9 and 7-year-old and explain to him, "Hey, this is the food you've got and you've got to eat it." So no, you're definitely not the jerk because you literally are doing exactly what you need to do. And the fact that your parents are giving you a hard time, in my opinion, is incredibly annoying. Would I be the jerk if I refused to lend my college fund for my cousin so that he can finish up his degree? Because right now I'm so confused and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm an 18-year-old female and I have a bit of a problem. My 22-year-old male cousin wants to move to another city to finish his last years of college. He's been failing his chosen program for a bit now, and he is convinced that switching locations will help him finally finish his degree. He's even talked to his mother about it, but from what I've heard, she hasn't exactly been pleased as it's going to cost a lot of money, which would be around 5 digits in my country's currency from his estimation. This is a new city far away from where we currently live now, and the everyday basic needs aren't even counted in his said estimation, such as rent, food, electricity, and the likes, because it really could cost more than that if you consider everything. Our grandmother is asking me to lend him the money, but I just received that amount back from another family member who I had lent to for other personal reasons. I had agreed to lend the money a year ago, and recently I just received 90% of it. Now, on the same day I received this money, my grandmother is asking me if I can lend about 80% of what I got back to my cousin for his education. Now, I'm about to start college myself in a few months, and this money was meant to help me secure my future. I don't want to sound selfish, but I'm scared that lending him this money will derail my own plans. I know my cousin's situation is difficult, but he has been struggling in his program for quite a bit now. Personally, if you ask me, I have no hope for him in this program that he's chosen to take, even if he seems so convinced that changing universities and locations will somehow help him complete it, because it really seems like this might not even be the path for him. And this is because he has repeated a year or so in said college program, all due to not meeting the required units that he needed to pass in order to go to the next year of college. His chances of actually finishing seems pretty slim, given how much he's been failing to pass. And no offense, but I'm not sure I want to risk my future for someone who hasn't been able to get it together yet. I want to talk about it with my family once more, as we have already talked about this before, and try to convince him to switch to something more feasible and one that will help him finally graduate, as it has been one of his greatest concerns. But he has been pretty adamant about finishing this program, even going as far as to say that if I'm not graduating with this program, then I better not graduate at all. I don't want to disappoint my family, but I'm genuinely very torn. If I lend him this money, I might jeopardize my own education and the future I've planned for myself. I feel like I'm being selfish by not helping out, but at the same time, I need to think about myself. I've talked to my parents about this, but so far they haven't given me any answers, and they keep changing the subject. So seriously, would I be the jerk for refusing to lend my college fund to my cousin? Because right now I feel so very confused and I don't know what to do. Okay, first and foremost, no, you are not the jerk for denying this from him, because seriously, there are so many things wrong in this story. For starters, the only reason your grandma's coming to you do is because she knows that you have already done this once before. She knows that you willingly give out money like this, and so she's like, wait a second, I know you just got like most of your money back, but you should give about 80% of it to your cousin for college. And that is so toxic because clearly she knows what's going on, and that is not a good thing. She knows that you just got that money back, which is why she's asking in the first place. Like, it really seems like everybody's talking about you at your expense, and this is somehow throwing you under the bus. And also, why is this falling on your shoulders? You're only 18 years old. Why are you paying for your 22-year-old cousin's college? This guy's also moving to another city thinking this is gonna somehow like increase his chances of graduating, but in all actuality, this guy's probably not gonna pass. You said it yourself. He hasn't passed some of the units before, so why should you invest in him when you literally just got that money back? Like, seriously, this guy's future is not in your hands. It's in his. And from the sounds of it, it doesn't even sound like he needs to switch cities in the first place. Like, this really does seem like a want over a need. Like, big time if you ask me. So no, in my opinion, I think you would be well within your right to save your money and keep it for yourself. Because I really am convinced there's some kind of like ulterior motive from everybody in your family. And if you're not careful, then other family members will come along and use you as an ATM machine, because right now that's the only way they've ever treated you. An entitled Karen thinks that she owns the drive-thru by demanding that she get her food before anybody else. But when she doesn't get her way, she starts to cause chaos in a way that is truly unacceptable. And now, as a result, she's on the run from the police, as she booked it from the parking lot the second they showed up. Here's what happened. So I'm at Chick-fil-A the other day, and at this location, they have two drive-thru lanes, one for regular orders and the other for mobile orders. And for me, I always use the mobile lane because it is way faster. Well, that is until today. Things start going wrong once the entitled Karen of this story comes into play. She cuts me off while pulling into the parking lot, which is the first big red flag, but honestly, I think to myself, whatever. There's no one else in the mobile lane, so it's not that big of a deal. Well, when I pull in behind her, I immediately notice that she's not holding a phone to scan a QR code like a normal person. Instead, she's sitting there, waving at the attendants. Well, newsflash, nobody monitors the mobile lane, so naturally, she starts laying on the horn like a lunatic. Eventually, though, an employee does come over. Before he's even at her car, she starts barking out her order. And this is not a short one. This woman orders like she's feeding an army. After ordering her food, she drives off without paying. The guy literally has to chase her down to get her payment. Then she pulls up to the window where I'm still stuck right behind her, despite having scanned my code and being ready to grab my food in seconds. The employee at the window asked her to pull around to one of the waiting spots, but she refused to do so. She then screamed out, "No, it always takes longer if I pull around." The employee then explains very patiently, if I might add, that pulling around won't delay her order, but it will let them serve the people behind her whose food is ready. She then responds by saying, "It's not really fair to prepare their orders before mine when I was here first." The employee tries to explain how food stations work, but she interrupts him by saying, "They should all be working on the first person's order. I know you just make minimum wage, but this really shouldn't be that hard to understand." After what felt like forever, the manager appears at the window. He leans out and very politely asks her to pull around, even promising to personally bring her food out as soon as it's ready. To top it all off, he offers her a complimentary peppermint shake as an apology for the inconvenience. Well, what does this entitled Karen do? She knocks the shake out of his hand, and it goes flying everywhere. On him, inside the window, it's total chaos. She even has the nerve to honk her horn at me. But finally, karma starts to take hold. A couple minutes later, two police officers walk around the front of the drive-thru road, coming straight towards her. This Karen laughs at the manager, saying, "Oh, you really called the police?" The manager calmly responds by saying, "No, ma'am, they were at the counter when I walked by covered in the shake that you knocked over. They also heard you shouting and honking. I told them it was fine, but they wanted to check on the situation." At this point, the officers reached her car and told her if she doesn't pull forward and talk to them, they will arrest her for assault and move the car themselves. Well, she finally pulls around, but surprisingly, she doesn't stop. And instead, she speeds out of the parking lot. Well, when she did this, the police just laughed. She has a very easy to remember vanity plate, and they told the manager that they're adding obstruction of justice for failing to comply with a lawful order when they finally will track her down. And hopefully that happens soon, because the way she treated everybody was absolutely unacceptable. Wow, I can't imagine going to Chick-fil-A and acting like that. Is the food you're getting really worth going to jail? Like, seriously, just get in line like everybody else, or actually order properly through the application like you should have. So hopefully, for the sake of the story and everybody who was affected by this weirdo, she gets arrested for running away from the police, because her behavior is absolutely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love of Am I the Genius? Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My boyfriend owes me thousands of dollars that he is still refusing to pay me back on, as he continuously makes excuses and keeps putting off the date that he's supposed to pay me back. Because right now, I feel very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my boyfriend and I have been together for over 2 years. In the beginning, we split expenses for dates and meals equally, but over time, I've ended up covering most of the cost. He rarely takes out his card, even though he claims to make over 3 times more than me in a year. I work one job, I earn a decent income, and I can live independently, but the imbalance has been frustrating. Well, to address this, I suggested using Splitwise about 1.5 years ago so that we could track shared expenses. I've logged everything diligently, but he has not entered receipts for the few times he's paid, and this year, by about May, he owed me about $5,000. When I started asking him to pay me back in June, it turned into multiple fights. He made excuses, promised to pay me tomorrow, but rarely followed through. By August, he had paid me $2,600, but $2,400 is still pending. He promised to pay the rest by the first week of October, then he postponed it to November, and then to the end of November, but now it's December, and I haven't received anything. He continues to make excuses, even though he clearly has the time and money to pay me back. I've tried everything, calm conversations, begging, even arguing, but nothing works. I even offered to help him use Splitwise, but he doesn't make any effort. What adds to my frustration is his other behavior. He frequently steals small items from grocery stores, and it feels like a pattern of irresponsibility and a lack of accountability. I've considered reaching out to his family for help, but even his stepmother mentioned that he owes her money too. He's paid her back more than he's ever paid me, which makes me feel like he values her relationship more than ours. At this point, I feel hopeless and I don't know how to move forward. So truly, how can I retrieve my money that he owes me? Because at this point, I really don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, I don't think you're gonna like what I'm gonna say, but just like previous stories we've covered on this channel, I think this might be a lost cause. If he really did care about you, then he would take the steps to try and pay you back. But this guy's only paid you maybe half of what he should have paid you, and that seriously is so unfair for you. The second someone owes me thousands of dollars, that would literally be the moment I start questioning everything I know about that person, especially if it's someone who's claiming to be in a relationship with me. Like, just look at the way your boyfriend is acting. This is so unfair, it's not even funny. So truly, I'm so sorry you're dealing with this kind of behavior, because you do not deserve this in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not showing up to my sister's wedding, all because she didn't want my girlfriend coming with me, as my family absolutely hates our relationship? Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, I don't get along with my family. I was kicked out at 18 years old and forced to live in my car and survive, and I've had to learn how to do everything on my own. Through the time that I was homeless, I never received a single text message, a call, anything from my sister or any of my siblings. The only people that were concerned were one of my friend's moms, who graciously started a GoFundMe and bought me groceries and surprised me with all of it when I was at my lowest point, and then later on even graciously paid for a transmission rebuild for my car. I mean, truly, I owe it all to that woman. But anyways, fast forward and I'm now doing a lot better. I have a place to live and I have a roommate. I also have another nicer, newer car, as I got a loan myself, and I have a full-time job and a girlfriend. So basically, I'm doing okay. Around this time, my sister gets engaged, and out of the blue, she invites me to her wedding. Now, I'm kind of shocked because the few times I visited my parents, despite what they did to me, the family tore me down and insulted my girlfriend and told me my relationship would never last. All the while, my sister is engaged and the family is praising her, and her husband has essentially become my replacement. Well, I told my parents I would think about it anyways, and I had learned that my sister would be inviting a ton of people who were just acquaintances or friends, and had told my siblings they could bring some people that they knew. So my girlfriend and I just decided to plan on going and just get it over with. Well, my sister learned that I planned on bringing my girlfriend, and she actually tells me no, that she doesn't want her there. At this point, I was frustrated, and I just decided it wasn't even worth it at this point. Why would I show up for them when they haven't even talked to me in a year? So I don't go, I stay home, and I just sleep. But then I wake up to a bunch of angry text messages with literally everybody guilt-tripping me, asking me where I was. But you know what? I ignored them and I went about my day. So truly, am I the jerk considering the circumstances? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Yeah, I don't blame you for a second for not showing up. These people sound incredibly toxic, and they've honestly gone gone completely overboard with hating on you. It doesn't sound like they have a good reason for any of this too. Like they not only kicked you out when you're 18, but then when you do decide to come around, they trash you and your girlfriend. And it's like, wait a second, what's going on here? This is really not fair, especially considering the fact that you had to rebuild your entire life. These people left you with nothing, and now they're expecting you to play by their rules, despite the fact that everybody else can bring someone with them. So truly, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. I regret moving with my partner to another country because now I feel completely trapped, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 39-year-old female, and my 56-year-old partner and I have been living together for almost 3 years now. 1 year in my house offshore, and 2 years in his country. I've been out of work for 2 years since I left my job, my social life with my friends and family, and all of my hobbies. I enjoyed swimming, yoga, gym workouts, and free diving. I've now been struggling because I no longer have these, which I know might seem like a foolish move since I had a pretty happy life back home. And besides the boring job that I had, I deeply miss everything else. I thought I could make new friends here and pick up my hobbies, but I didn't realize how isolating his place would be, and I'm now starting to feel very depressed and anxious. I didn't work because we were trying to conceive, and I believe that reducing stress would help out. We were advised to undergo IVF, but it turns out we don't have the financial resources for that. I also worked for him on the farm sometime before and asked if he could pay me hourly to help cover some of the bills I left back home. However, he stopped paying me hourly because he felt it's not really a teamwork between us. Well, I agreed, and he gives me $580 per month as help. I still help with the work, and he said the money he saves from my work can go towards my wants and my needs. But somehow we always end up without any extra funds, which after checking the figures, I believe is true. So now I'm still in debt, I have no savings, and I can't buy or do the things that I want. I'd like to go home, but in my country, it's difficult to find a job in your 40s, especially since the industry I worked in is struggling at the moment. I feel trapped, but I can't fully open up to my partner because he is sensitive, and sometimes he takes things personally. I think this may also be due to the financial stress he's experiencing, but I honestly feel so lost that now I don't know what to do. So if there ever was a situation where I can confidently say this is incredibly sketchy, this would absolutely be it, because what you just described sounds like a nightmare. Let me get this straight. You moved to another country, you have no job, you have no social life, you left your friends, your family, and all of the things you enjoyed to live with a man who basically has you working on his farm for free. He's not paying you, and he gives you like what, $500 a month, claiming that all the money he's saving is going to be used towards anything you want or you need? Like, what is going on right now? This guy basically tricked you into working for free under the assumption that you two love each other, and you're too afraid to say anything because he's sensitive. Like, dude, look around and see your surroundings. This is not a healthy environment. If anything, this is like what nightmares are made of. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would reach out to family or friends back home and send them some kind of like SOS message, because it really seems like he's trying to trap you with him on purpose, because none of this is adding up, and I think it wouldn't be a bad idea to try and go back home. Am I the jerk for not letting my ex-roommate use my Amazon Prime account after she spent all of my gift card on movies that she wanted? Because now she's calling me up screaming that I ruined her movie night, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, my roommate and I were roommates for part of the first semester in college, and for the sake of the story, I'll call this roommate Jay. At first, everything was great. We would eat together, we would talk all night, and we would go shopping. But it all changed, however, when we rushed for a sorority. I got into the one that she wanted, and she got into a different one. From then on, she was a little more distant, but we were still good friends. It's also worth mentioning that on our shared TV, which I bought by the way, I paid for Amazon Prime, Disney Plus, and Peacock, while her parents paid for Max and Netflix. And I didn't have a problem with this because I had money saved from a young age to do what I wanted with in college. Later, I found out that she had to move out due to health reasons, and I know how it sounds, but it was actual health reasons with certain foods that she needed to cook. I was a little bit upset because she told me a week before she moved out, but either way, I understood and I supported her. The entire process, she was out with her friends at her sorority and left me to pack up her stuff, which I did because I wanted to be nice. Fast forward to a few weeks ago, and she asked me to log out of her Netflix and Max account, which I had not used since she moved out and frankly forgot that she had. So I did that as soon as possible. Later that same week, I look on my Amazon account and I saw that a gift card I had on there was used up. When I looked into it, I saw that some movies were rented that I I didn't rent. So I texted and asked if she had rented movies or something like that, and she said that she did. I asked her why she was on my Amazon account, and she said that she didn't have one and that she wanted it. I told her that it wasn't fair that I had to get off the Netflix, but she can spend the money to watch a movie. Well, she said it was different because the Netflix account was hers, and according to her, the Amazon account was something we shared. But I said no. I told her that if she didn't get off my account, then I would find a way to kick her off myself. Well, she refused, so I called my dad and we figured it out. She then called me screaming that I ruined her movie night with her friends, but I basically said, well then pay for your own then. So truly, was I wrong for doing what I did? Because right now, I'm not sure if I was the jerk or not. No, you are definitely not the jerk. Jay sounds incredibly entitled and very spoiled. You mean to tell me that they actually asked you to get off of their account, but then they go on yours and spend actual money you had saved up on that thing? Like, are you kidding me right now? That is so unfair. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because what she did to you, in my opinion, is way worse than what you did to her. Am I the jerk for telling my brother-in-law that he needs to stop his weird hobby before he ruins the entire family? Here's what happened. So this has been brewing for a while now, so truly, you need to buckle up for this one. My brother-in-law, who we will call Dan, is my husband's older brother, and I guess he's always been a bit eccentric, but things have escalated recently in a way that has me seriously questioning my sanity. For context, Dan is single. He works from home and has no kids. Over the past year, he's gotten really into urban exploration, and we're talking like going into abandoned buildings and tunnels and stuff like that. At first, it seemed kinda cool. It was weird, but it was harmless. He would show up to family dinners with stories about this haunted factory or that abandoned hospital, and it's just like, okay, whatever. We all just humored him and it was fine. But then he started bringing stuff back, like random junk that he has scavenged, old signs and broken chairs, creepy dolls, I mean, you name it, he brought it, and he calls it reclaiming history. My husband and I tried to politely suggest that maybe this isn't safe, but he just brushes it off like we're boring normies who just don't get it. The breaking point came last weekend. My husband and I hosted a family barbecue, and Dan showed up late, dragging this rusty, massive old safe he found in some abandoned house. He parked it in the middle of our driveway as if he just scored a treasure chest. He's grinning ear to ear, telling everyone he's gonna crack it open because according to him, it could have money or gold or some kind of secret to it. But guys, let me tell you something. This safe was disgusting. It smelled like mildew, it was covered in cobwebs, and God knows what was inside. So I told him he could not keep it at our house. But when I said that, he got all defensive, saying I was ruining his discovery and being uptight. My husband tried to back me up, but Dan just said, oh, you're just jealous because I have a cool hobby. We ended up making him leave with the safe, but not before he made a huge scene about how nobody in this family supports him. Well, now my in-laws are mad at me, saying that I overreacted and embarrassed him in front of everyone. They think that I should have just let him keep it for the day to avoid the drama. So now I'm starting to wonder if I'm the jerk here, because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, for starters, I have to say that I think Dan's hobby is a little bit weird, but it is harmless for the most part. If he wants to explore like abandoned buildings or tunnels, then go for it. Like, that's really cool. And while I think it's wrong to steal things from those locations, such as like dolls or even a safe in this case, overall it's relatively harmless and nobody's really doing anything wrong. But for me, the biggest red flag is the fact that this guy is bringing this stuff over to your house. Because sure, he probably really enjoys looking through these abandoned buildings and finding cool artifacts that he can bring back and show to people. But for him to bring it over to your house and drop it literally in your driveway and be like, wow, look at this thing I found. Like, that to me is a little bit too much and way over the line. Because seriously, I wouldn't want a safe in my driveway, and that's hardly him scavenging anything. He straight up stole a safe from an abandoned property and said, oh man, look at this treasure chest. And it leads me to believe that this guy is hardly an explorer, because if anything, he's kind of just a thief. And the fact that he's bringing it to your house to be like, look at this thing that definitely smells like garbage, like that would be super annoying to me, and I would be like, dude, just keep it at your place. I don't want it in my yard. So I don't think you're the jerk in this situation, because he really should not be bringing this stuff to your house, because that, in my opinion, completely crosses the line. Today, I messed up by going camping in the woods by myself, and I've honestly never been more terrified in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so I decided that it would be a great idea to go camping in the woods alone. Just me, my tent, and a weekend of solitude to clear my head. No distractions, no noise, just nature. And I really thought that it sounded peaceful, but trust me when I say this, it was not. Everything was fine at first. I found a spot, I pitched my tent after struggling for way too long with the stupid poles, and I even got a fire going, which I was way too proud of myself about. By the time the sun started setting, I was feeling pretty good about myself. I had some snacks, a little folding chair, and a nice fire to keep me warm. Then the night fell, and oh my god, I was not ready for how dark it gets in the woods. Like, I thought my eyes would adjust, but no. Every sound, the wind, the leaves, some animal far off, it all sounded like it was coming straight for me. I kept thinking to myself, you're fine, this is just how nature sounds like. But I was holding my flashlight like a sword just in case. Around midnight, I started hearing rustling that sounded way too close to my tent. It wasn't just the wind. This was something moving. My heart was racing, but I convinced myself it was probably a raccoon or something like that. I stayed still, trying to not make any noise, but the sound just kept getting louder. And then, I swear I heard what sounded like footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps circling my tent. At this point, I'm losing it. I'm holding my pocket knife in one hand, shaking so bad I'm probably useless if anything happens. I tried to turn off my flashlight so that whoever it was or whatever it was wouldn't be able to see me. But in reality, I was too scared to even reach for the button. The footsteps stopped and there was a silence for a few minutes. I was about to convince myself I imagined it when something tapped on the side of my tent. I have never been so close to passing out in my life. I couldn't scream. I couldn't move. I just sat there clutching my knife, waiting for the end to take me. Eventually, I heard the footsteps fade into the distance, and I forced myself to peek outside. I couldn't see anything, but I didn't feel safe staying there. So I packed up as fast as I could, and I booked it back to my car. It was the longest walk of my life, and I was 100% convinced that something was following me the entire time. I drove home in the middle of the night, shaking the entire way. I still don't know what or who was out there, but I'm honestly never doing that ever again. Oh man, there is no way I would ever go camping by myself. Like, that sounds really scary, and there's no way anyone could convince me to do that. So the fact that you did that in the first place is very impressive. But hopefully, if you ever do that again, something like that never happens again, because that sounds like an absolute nightmare. My entitled neighbor hits my car and then runs off, stating that he will never go through insurance to pay for the damages he did to my car, forcing me to call the cops. And I'm honestly still blown away by this situation entirely. Here's what happened. Okay, so this took place several years ago. I work in a group home for adults with special needs, and the building I work in is just a regular bungalow in a residential area. Parking isn't ideal because all we have is one narrow driveway. So if the driveway is free when you get there, then fine. But if someone is already parked there when you arrive, you end up blocking them in if you park in the driveway. Now, this is not ideal, as we often leave on errands for the residents during our shift. So when the driveway is occupied, we park on the street in front of the house. And this is perfectly legal. I live in Canada in an area that gets tons of snow in the winter. So the only rules about parking are that you cannot block a fire hydrant. And from the 15th of October to the 15th of April, you can't park on the streets from midnight to 7 o'clock in the morning. And this is also so the snowplows can do their job in the event of a storm. All other times of day are fair game, and anything in the summer is acceptable. Now, my situation took place on a sunny afternoon in late June, so it was perfectly legal for me to park there on the street. So I'm at work doing my job when there's a knock on the door. My coworker answered, and it turned out it was the guy who lives across the street. He and his wife were heading out of town and were traveling in their truck, which had a trailer hitched to the back. My car was parked on the street across from him, and as he was backing out of his driveway, he backed his trailer right into my front driver's side wheel well. So I go out to inspect the damage, and he's already mad, saying how frustrating it is that the people in our house are always parked on the street, that it makes it hard for him to get out of his driveway, and all this other garbage. Now, mind you, this is the first time he has said anything to any of us, but honestly, whatever. I didn't say anything to him, but I just looked at my car to see the damage, and it was pretty bad. In fact, it ended up costing $2,000 to repair it. So I just say, let's just exchange insurance information, and that is quite literally the only thing I've said to him up to this point. Well, when I said that, he gets very angry. He starts yelling and says he refuses to go through insurance, saying it's my fault for being parked on the street, and he'll have to pay for the damages, but only if I take my car to this guy that he knows. His wife then adds that they're doing me a favor by even telling me. They could have just driven off. Well, technically yes, but that's actually illegal, so no, you weren't doing me any favors. Again, I don't say much, and I just reiterate that I'd like to go through the insurance. Well, this guy flat out refuses, which is also incredibly illegal. So I say to him, fine, I'm just gonna call the police then. And at this point, he says he's not sticking around, and he and his wife actually drive off. And it was then that I absolutely called the police. The cops arrive and see that I'm parked legally and say there's no reason he should have been able to back out without hitting me. Now, here's perhaps the most annoying part of all of this. They track him down the next day and come back to let me know that they've spoken to him. It turns out he's a retired guard for the local jail, and according to the officer who did the follow-up, apparently he seems like a good guy. He's quite quite nice. And well, yes, I'm sure he was nice to the cop. But me, the rather small female civilian, not so much. Because this cop literally tries to convince me to not go through insurance. And I'm thinking to myself, what is going on right now? He's part of your club, so he gets a free pass for being a jerk? No thank you. This guy verbally attacks me for his mistake. Then he drove away from the scene of an accident. So they need to fine him. Don't try to make this easier on him. He's a jerk. Well, I went through insurance, and my insurance covered 100% of the cost and deemed it all not my fault, which was a relief as it means my premiums were not affected. And you know what? I'm pretty sure cops have to issue a ticket when a motor vehicle collision occurs. So I'm not really sure what happens with a neighbor, but I'm guessing he received some sort of fine because I know I definitely didn't. Man, this story really pisses me off. Imagine parking your car on the street and then someone not only hits your car, but then refuses to go through insurance for it and also decides to run away. And I don't know about you, but that is definitely the definition of a hit and run. Even though there was like a conversation beforehand, these people hit your car and then they ran off. So the fact that the cops didn't do anything more serious is absolutely insane in my opinion. These are such crooked cops, like oh my god, that is so unacceptable. So truly, I'm blown away by these cops' behavior because this is not a good look in the slightest. And the fact that you had to even argue your case in the first place, in my opinion, is absolutely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Would I be the jerk if I told my housemate that his OCD and house rules are making our lives a living nightmare? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my partner and I moved into a house that we share with two other guys ages 19 and 25. Now, I'm generally tidy, and I've shared a house for many years, but the 19-year-old male has been overly strict and passive-aggressive since we moved in. When we arrived, he tried to give us just one cupboard and just one fridge shelf for both of us to use, despite the fact that there were 6 cupboards and 5 shelves. When we pushed back, he got annoyed, and eventually we took space for ourselves, but he retaliated by throwing away communal items, which might lead to extra charges for all of us. The house is spotless, yet this guy is constantly complaining. He says that we can't leave wet sponges in the sink, and they have to be in my cupboard despite the damp smell. I'm also not allowed to use the drying rack for any of the plates. I can't leave leftovers in the kitchen, but also can't have more fridge space. He also suggested storing food in my room, which I refused. He complained about a bin being half full while we were out for 2 days, and yet he refused to empty it himself. Once, he sent a long rant about a single crumb in the kitchen. His messages are long-winded and often feel targeted towards me and my partner, even though the other 25-year-old is messier than all of us. I eventually snapped and I told him that he needs to adjust his tone, but he claimed that these rules are due to his OCD, but they are excessive, and I'm tired of being hounded all the time. We've also tried to be accommodating. No personal belongings in the communal areas, no guests, and keeping everything spotless. And yet still, the constant messaging and lack of compromise is honestly exhausting. I want to say to him, hey, I've tried to be accommodating, but your constant passive aggressiveness and your strict rules are becoming ridiculous. Our home is very clean, and it's unfortunate if it doesn't meet your standards due to your OCD. However, you can't expect the rest of us to cater to your every need, especially when it comes to communal space. When you sign up for a house share, compromise is necessary. I also feel the way that you address me but not my partner or the 25-year-old male that shares the house with us is incredibly sexist and domineering, which I don't appreciate. So please, let's work towards a middle ground. I honestly want to say all this to this guy, but I don't know if I would be the jerk, because right now I really don't know what to do. Yeah, in my opinion, the second anyone's like, you have to follow the rules, my OCD says so, like at that point, I'm gonna get really angry and very frustrated. Because here's the thing, your OCD is your problem, not mine. That is something for him to figure out, and not something that you should be held to as if it's the word of God. Like seriously, the way he's acting is crazy and there's no good excuse for it. Because there are people in my life that have OCD, but they never act like this. They have ways of like keeping things in check, and they've taken the steps to like take care of themselves and make it not so much of an issue. But in my opinion, it doesn't seem like your roommate's doing that at all. Instead, he's like externalizing it and being like, wow, you have gotta follow my rules. Like, is this guy the landlord for some reason? Like, what's going on? So no, you would not be the jerk for telling this guy exactly how it is, because his behavior, in my opinion, is completely out of line. Am I the jerk for telling my sister no after she once again asked me for money? Because after funding so many projects that she's given up on, I now feel very badly about telling her no, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my younger sister and I are both in our 20s. A few years ago, I moved out, I went to school and started off well well for myself. I got myself a 2-bedroom apartment, and I am basically well off. I'm now married, and my partner and I recently welcomed a baby. Because I wanted to be a stay-at-home parent, I'm not bringing in any money, and I'm staying at home 100% of the time to bond with our baby before they go to kindergarten. My partner can afford to take care of the bills without any kind of help, and if push comes to shove, we'll use my emergency fund. Well, this is where the issues start. My sister still lives with my mom, and before we welcomed our baby, I was basically my sister's bank. Whatever she needed, I would pay for, and she would start something new only to quit again after a while. Over the course of the years, I felt taken advantage of, but I would do it anyways. She is my sister, and I love her, and I honestly hope that the next thing would stick. I told her I couldn't do it anymore because babies are pricey, and she had my mom and dad pay for stuff. Recently, she started working at a low-paying job, and she mentioned needing money for another project yet again, but I told her that I couldn't do it, and my parents delayed paying for it. I felt bad and thought I'd give her part of my savings, till I heard she got herself a new iPhone. Now, at this point, I flipped out, because her phone was in perfectly good shape, and she certainly didn't need a $1,000 phone. She thinks that I'm being a jerk, because I had said I would give her my savings, but why should I use my own money when she's getting herself a new phone? I told her if it was that important, she would have paid for it herself, but then she went on about how she doesn't earn that much money. Part of me wants to just give it to her, because then my parents won't have to fund her, but a bigger part of me is upset, because they are enabling her, and I don't want to enable her out of my own pocket. I had to pay for my own school and juggle work and school to save money, so I really think this is unfair. Part of the issue is also that she doesn't look for me or text me unless I text her first. Now, I have addressed this, and her reasoning is always about, well, I was about to, but then months can go by, and when I text her that, suddenly a response will come in. So truly, am I the jerk for telling my sister no? Because right now I feel really bad and I don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk for saying no, but I do think you're a fool if you let this continue. Seriously, it can't be more obvious that your sister is using you for money. She literally only comes to you whenever she needs something, and she doesn't like message you or text you outside of that. And that, in my opinion, is like textbook manipulation and just her taking advantage of you. So no, you're not the jerk for telling your sister no, and in my opinion, it's time to maybe stand up for yourself, because if you're not careful, this behavior absolutely will continue. Am I the jerk for not giving my dad the birthday gift that he asked for? Because right now, my parents are in a big argument over it, and at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So last week was my dad's birthday, and I usually like to get him something nice. My parents immigrated to Western Europe when I was a small child so that they could provide us with a better life, even though they earn minimum wage. 5 years ago, I graduated from the best engineering university in the country, so I've been fortunate to have a good financial situation. I enjoy spoiling them as a way to thank them for their support on their birthdays and at Christmas. For example, last year I knew my mom wanted to go on a trip with her friends, but didn't have the money to do it, so I covered the cost of her flight and hotel. This year, I asked my dad what he wanted for his birthday, and being a simple man, he said he wanted a new vape. After thinking it over, I decided against buying him the vape. I've tried to help him quit several times, but have accepted that it's unlikely to happen. However, I don't feel right about actively supporting his addictions. So instead, I got him a new tablet because I knew that he was still using his old one, which had a broken screen. And the tablet ended up being a lot more expensive than the vape. Well, when I gave him the gift, he seemed really agitated. He took me aside and expressed his gratitude, but questioned why I chose such an expensive item instead of the cheaper one that he wanted. He acknowledged that the tablet was nice, but mentions that he needs to buy a new vape this year, and he anticipates a big fight with my mom if he buys the one he likes. He then asked me to return the tablet and exchange it for the vape. Well, I told him that I was sorry, but I just couldn't do it. I can't be the one paying for the toxic chemicals that are slowly harming you. You can ask for anything else, but I can't provide that. We then had a small argument over it, and then we went back inside to celebrate. Well, today, my younger sister, who still lives at home, messaged me to say that mom and dad are fighting over dad's new vape. She then asked me why I was being so stubborn and didn't just get it for him. I explained my reasons to her, but she thought that I was being unreasonable since he was going to get the vape anyways. Unfortunately, it seems they will be fighting about this for a couple of weeks. I've been reflecting on my decision for a while, and I'm now starting to have doubts. I want him to be healthy, but I can't help but wonder if my choice was selfish. He still has the vape, and it seems I'm the only one who benefited because I managed to keep my conscience clear. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, maybe I'm wrong here, but I really don't think you're the jerk here because I completely understand your reasoning. You don't like the fact that he's vaping, and you feel like this is a horrible addiction and it's ruining his life. So you decided, okay, I'm just gonna get you a tablet instead, and that's that. So from that perspective, I understand why you did it, and I I don't think you're in the wrong for choosing to do that. You don't want to support that addiction. And sure, he got the vape that he wanted either way, but it didn't come out of your pocket. And that, in my opinion, is a big deal. Because sure, he can try and guilt trip you and be like, oh, I'm gonna get it anyways, and it's gonna cause a big argument. You need to buy this for me. And it's like, no, I'm sorry, that's not gonna happen. You still have the choice of whether you want to buy it or not, and I'm not responsible for if you do buy it. Like, that kind of reasoning from your dad is so twisted, it's not even funny. So no, I don't think you're the jerk here, because it really seems like your intentions were in the right place. Am I the jerk for telling tourists not to park near my house after they parked their SUV literally a foot away from my house? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my parents' house is located near Roman historical ruins and is considered a tourist visiting location. It's a long aqueduct, and part of it runs like 30 feet away from my house. Well, this family of tourists with their kids decided they wanted to sightsee these ruins, and many tourists do every year as well. So honestly, so far so good. The thing is, they parked their SUV like a foot away from my parents' house, and this is on the road, by the way. I was gardening at the time, and I heard them all talking going out of the vehicle, so I went out to them and I asked if they came out to visit our family, to which the father answered that no, they just want to see the ruins. Well, I told him if that's the case, then this isn't a parking spot, to which he answered it's only going to take half a minute and then they'll leave, even though as a side note, it wasn't half a minute. He then tried to say that it's not bothering anyone if it's on the road, so I told him that a road isn't a parking place. He then said that he understands, and then turned away to his business to show that he was ignoring me. I told him that it's clear he doesn't understand, but whatever, and then I returned home. So right now, I really feel like a Karen, but it's also the fact that most tourists park outside our village entirely, or they go far enough into the ruins as to not be parked where people live. But he decided that my fence was good to park near. It honestly doesn't really bother anyone, because it's actually very boring here as it is, but it's the fact that he didn't try to understand my perspective at all that really truly annoyed me. He could have asked if there's a parking spot around, or if there's anywhere they can stand around that isn't a living area. I would have answered him, and in retrospect even told him that he can stay off the road away from my house, but he still stuck to his own agenda. So truly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Okay, I don't know the specifics of like where you live, or like the laws when it comes to parking on a public road, but from my perspective, as someone who does live in a country where yes, you typically can park on the side of the road, even if it is in front of somebody else's house, like in my opinion, I really do think that you are the jerk here. Sure, they could have parked anywhere else, but guess what? Just because they parked in front of your house doesn't mean that they're like taking a shot at you. And you're trying to argue, wow, you shouldn't park in front of my house. But the counter argument is literally, oh, you mean the public road? The road that is literally available to anybody to use and do whatever they want on? You mean that road? Like seriously, this is not a private driveway. And from the sounds of it, it's not like they're parking on your front yard. So seriously, like what's the problem here? They were not bothering you. They weren't even on your property. So for you to be like, wow, you need to move, you're being inconsiderate. It's like, no, they're actually not doing anything wrong. They're parking off to the side of a public road. And unless there's some kind of restriction that like blocks people from parking in that area, then in my opinion, these people are well within their right to park wherever they want. My parents absolutely hate my boyfriend simply because he has a 3-year-old son, and they have now chosen to say that they will never support him if we ever get married. And at this point, I am so hurt that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my boyfriend and I have been dating for almost a year now. I am extremely happy with him, and he treats me so well. It's been an absolute dream being with him. He's the perfect man, and I can't see my life without him, and our relationship has been amazing. A few weeks into us talking, I had a feeling that we would be official, so I told my parents about him, and also told them that he has a 3-year-old son. Well, they were initially stumped, and told me that they aren't the biggest fans, but they were overall kind about it, and said that it's my life so I can choose what I want to do. I listened to them and I kept it in my mind, but I decided to continue our relationship. After they realized that I wasn't ending things with him, they became much more cold and incredibly rude to me. They told me they don't understand why I told them if they were going to say they don't approve, and I just decided to continue the relationship. They said they'll never give us their blessing to marry, they'll never have us at events together, and they're mourning the loss of their relationship with their daughter and all this other stuff. They have also told me that I'm straining their marriage. They've sacrificed so much for me just to throw it in their face, and now they're even making rude comments by calling me stepmommy in a condescending tone. Initially, I did try my best to have them meet and open a conversation for us to talk about it. I would be open and tell them where I'm going with him, if I'm staying at his place, or where I got my flowers from. For reference, he's gotten me flowers every month since we've started dating. But eventually, they told me they don't want to hear about it or see him. So I stopped telling them where I'm going completely. I spend much less time at home because of the tension, silent treatment, or rude behavior. It feels like a lose-lose lose telling them everything and trying to find a solution or just leaving them alone. I currently live with them, and I'm saving up to move out and be fully financially independent. In fact, they have already thrown finances in my face, mentioning how they pay my insurance and I live under their roof, which I completely agree. So the best thing to do would be to move out and at least get rid of one argument they might have. There's constant tension in the house with them, and whenever they seem okay, it's because I just go straight to work and home. Every other month we seem to argue about all of this, but I've honestly become so tired. The arguments are full of harsh remarks, as well as condescending comments about how I make stupid decisions, how I'm ruining the family, and they will never accept us and never attempt to. They've also said when our family doesn't like someone, they will just completely outcast them, and that's just how it is. So it's my decision to date him or be a part of the family. They then go on a list of all the family members they avoid because they don't like them or their partner. My mom also mentions her personal issues from the past, from when she grew up with having divorced parents, stating that this will not allow her to accept my relationship or be involved in my life. My parents have an us versus them mentality with the rest of my family and credit all of their issues to that. When I have spoken up about how that may not be the healthiest thing and how it makes no sense to love me unconditionally and then do the same to me, I'm just told that's the way our family works. I have tried many times to have a conversation, and I have been outspoken about how they don't talk to me to actually discuss things, but rather they just want to yell at me. I've said I don't feel comfortable at home, considered, or seen as a person. All of that to then lead to more accusing, yelling, and bullying. At this point, I know I haven't treated them the best recently because I have built so much resentment for them as well, and I would rather not, but at the same time, I can't try to be happy in the house knowing their kindness and love feels conditional. What should I do? Okay, let me just say first and foremost, your parents are absolutely awful. The way they're treating you is not normal, and the fact that they're trying to be like, oh, this is how family acts. If we don't like them, we cut them off. Like, that is not how it works at all. I can understand if there's some kind of like actual issue going on, or like some reoccurring bad behavior that would make someone like cut off a family member, but for your parents to be like, wow, we don't like their partner, we're never talking to them ever again. Like, that really is so extreme, it's not even funny. And that is not the way a normal family acts. So for your parents to be like, oh, your partner has a kid, we automatically hate him and we will never accept him. Like, that doesn't say anything about you or your partner, but instead it says a lot about them. Because I really am convinced they will do this to anybody that you try to date. Anyone you try to bring into your family, they will get the same type of treatment. These people just don't sound like they can ever be happy. And in my opinion, it's not your job to figure that out for them. So truly, I hope this works out for you, and I also hope you're able to move out and move on with your life, because your parents sound like a nightmare to live with. My entitled Karen of a neighbor is constantly complaining about where I park my car, claiming that I'm violating a bunch of city ordinances by parking my car legally on the street. So I decided to get some revenge by quite literally turning the tables and getting her in trouble for parking in front of a fire hydrant. Here's what happened. Okay, so a couple of months ago, I had a run-in with the self-appointed Homeowners Association enforcer of my neighborhood, and for the sake of the story, we'll call her Linda. For context, I don't live in an HOA community, but Linda likes to pretend that we do. She's the kind of person who leaves passive-aggressive notes on the car, or knocks on the door to complain about lawn height, and even calls the city for violations that don't actually exist. The issue started because I parked my car on the street in front of my house, which is, by the way, perfectly legal, and I've been doing it for years without any complaints. But apparently, Linda decided that my car was an eyesore, and one day I found a note tucked under my windshield. The note said, "This is not a parking lot. Park in your driveway like a respectful neighbor. Don't make me involve the city." Now, the note annoyed me, but I shrugged it off and I kept parking where I always do. But apparently, that wasn't good enough for Linda, because the next time she confronted me in person, she said to me, "I've told you before, parking on the street is inconsiderate. You have a driveway and you need to use it." Well, I looked at her and I said, "It is legal to park here and I'm not blocking anything." Linda looked at me and said, "It doesn't matter. It's ugly and makes the neighborhood look bad. Park in your driveway or I will report you." So it was decided right then and there. Fine. If she really wants me to park in my driveway, then I will park in my driveway. But I will follow every single rule to the letter. You see, my driveway is small. If I can park my car in it, it blocks the sidewalk. Technically, it's against city ordinances to obstruct the sidewalks. So the next day, I pulled my car right into my driveway, perfectly centered. And guess what? It completely blocked the sidewalk. Well, it didn't take long for Linda to notice, as she marched up to my door, red-faced and furious. She said to me, "You can't block the sidewalk. That is illegal." I said to her, "Oh, I thought you wanted me to park in my driveway." Linda said to me, "Well, well, not like that. You need to park properly. But I responded by saying there's no other way to park in my driveway without blocking the sidewalk. So I guess I'll have to go back to parking on the street then. When I said this, her face was absolutely priceless. She sputtered for a moment before finally stomping off. Now, thinking that was the end of it, I parked my car back on the street, but no, Linda wasn't done yet, because she actually called the city on me. A week later, a city inspector came by and he checked out the situation at hand. He saw that my car was legally parked on the street and told me that I was doing nothing wrong. However, he did mention that Linda had made several complaints about code violations in the neighborhood, and they were getting tired of her nonsense. So after that, I didn't hear from Linda for a while. Well, that is until last week when she started parking her car on the street in front of my house. So I did what any good neighbor would do. I called the city and I reported it. It turns out her car was just slightly too close to the fire hydrant, resulting in her getting a ticket. So truly, this revenge felt so sweet because the way she treated me was so uncalled for. Yeah, this lady was completely out of line. Like seriously, why would you act like that towards your neighbor? The car wasn't bothering anybody. You were literally just trying to park your car in a place that it will fit. The driveway's out of the question because it blocks part of the sidewalk. So it's like, okay, lady, what do you want? Because you can't possibly report me for everything. Like that's just insane. But through it all, I'm so glad that you reported her for parking in front of a fire hydrant, because that is some beautiful karma working its magic in the best way possible. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not wanting to see my nephew after his blatantly rude behavior on Thanksgiving? Because right now, my family's going through a stressful moment, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of background, my partner unexpectedly lost a sibling 2 weeks ago and has been across the country taking care of post-life affairs since the death. His cause of death is undetermined, and it has been very stressful, and the grief is real. My partner spent 3 days driving back home across the country with no heat, breaking down the day before Thanksgiving, and having to repair the vehicle en route. Hence, it was a very stressful trip. His nephew, who lives in town, had passively asked if we were having Thanksgiving dinner. Now, we weren't going to do it because of the stress and recent emotional overwhelming situation, and because I have an autoimmune disorder, and I am on a very restricted diet that doesn't include most Thanksgiving Day treats. But we decided to celebrate it on Friday when my partner got home, because it appeared that my nephew really wanted to. My nephew and his girlfriend stated that Friday would be our choice rather than Saturday. I spent days running around to 5 different stores, purchasing all the food, as well as cooking and cleaning it all by myself. We had turkey, homemade stuffing, homemade bread, sweet potato pie, mashed potatoes, roasted carrots, and potatoes, including squash, salad, cookies. I mean, you name it, we had it. My nephew and his girlfriend were aware that dinner would be served at 4:00 p.m. Well, at 3:00, I received a text message saying that my nephew's girlfriend couldn't make it because she got thrown extra work that day, even though it was remote and wasn't time dependent. And I'm not even sure if I believe that was true. Well, my nephew arrived at 4:01 p.m. and he literally brought a leftover lamb chop from his girlfriend's family's Thanksgiving dinner the day before, which is really ironic if you think about it. I didn't have the best timing, so dinner was ready a little bit early, and at that point, half of it was cold. We loaded our plates and we ate. My nephew dominated the conversation the entire time, talking about himself. He never once asked how either of us were doing, how my partner's trip was, nor asked about his dead uncle. As a side note, my nephew is an only child with no cousins and only has 2 uncles, but now he only has 1. Hence, the family is very small. At one point, I just stopped the one-sided conversation and I point blank asked him, "Do you have any questions about your uncle?" He then asked a few questions and we gave him some items that he inherited. He was then putting his shoes on and preparing to leave within an hour and 15 minutes after arriving. I had offered some leftovers and a portion of banana bread that I made, but he grabbed the entire loaf of bread and shoved it in his bag, along with the majority of the Thanksgiving leftovers. Now, I made a few direct comments, but they were just laughed off, and he was out the door in under 2 hours, and I don't even remember him saying thank you. I spent more time planning, prepping, and baking the banana bread alone than he spent with us, and neither of us even wanted to celebrate this year in the first place. This is not the first time Thanksgiving has fallen completely on me without any appreciation or acknowledgement. I used to enjoy Thanksgiving, but not recently. This is also not the first time my nephew has acted self-centered. My partner is so overwhelmed at the moment that I just don't think it's a good idea that I say anything to him about being upset and angry, because in all actuality, I'm livid. However, I'm struggling to comprehend whether this is my personal issue or if I have a valid reason to be upset. Right now I don't want to see my nephew for a while, and I'm seriously contemplating canceling Christmas because right now I'm incredibly offended and I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, your nephew is a self-centered piece of garbage. This guy literally only did this so that he could get some free food. Like, that's the only reason he's like, wait, are you guys having dinner too? He didn't care that his uncle passed away or anything like that. He didn't care that his only living uncle had to drive across the country to take care of this stressful moment. This guy only wanted some free food out of you two, and that honestly is mind-blowing, especially considering the fact that he literally had Thanksgiving dinner the day before. Like, this guy rolled up with some lamb chops that were half eaten. Like, seriously, what's his problem? So no, I don't think you're the jerk for not wanting to see him again, because the way your nephew acted, in my opinion, is incredibly rude. Am I the jerk for unknowingly ordering food for my boyfriend that he's allergic to, and as a result, effectively ruining our road trip? Because right now, he is refusing to talk to me, and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my boyfriend and I are on a road trip right now, and things have gone completely wrong. I feel awful, but I'm also really confused about whether I'm actually to blame. Earlier today, after hours of driving, we stopped at McDonald's for dinner. My boyfriend was really irritable, and he gets this way when he's tired, and he didn't even want to look at the menu. He just sighed and said, "Can you please handle this? Get me something normal." Now, I didn't want to make things worse, so I quickly ordered him a crispy chicken sandwich meal, and I figured that it was a safe choice. We ate in the car on the way to our hotel, and about halfway through his sandwich, he suddenly asked me, "Did this bun have sesame seeds on it?" And honestly, I did not even think about that in the first place. But sure enough, the bun did. He then got really upset and said that he's allergic to sesame seeds, which is something I had no idea about because he has never mentioned it to me in the year that we've been dating. He said his throat felt a bit itchy, but took an antihistamine and said he would be fine. I apologized repeatedly, and I offered to stop somewhere to get him different food, but he just stared out the window and ignored me the rest of the drive to the hotel. And the silence was unbearable, and I kept feeling worse and worse. When we got to the hotel, he barely spoke to me, but then he said that he needed some air and then he left the room. That was over 3 hours ago, and he is still not back. I've called him multiple times, but he's still not picking up, and now I'm sitting here spiraling. I get that I made a mistake, but how was I supposed to know about an allergy that he never told me about? He made me order for him, and he didn't give me any instructions, so it feels unfair to put all the blame on me. At the same time, I can't shake the feeling that I should have been more careful and checked the bun or asked about his allergies just to be safe. So am I the jerk in this situation, or is he by overreacting and disappearing for hours and not answering my calls? I'm honestly freaking out right now, and I seriously don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk here, your boyfriend's an idiot. If he really has some kind of allergy to sesame seeds, and he knew you two were eating at McDonald's, you know, a place notorious for putting sesame seeds on their buns, then he absolutely should have spoken up and said, "Hey, by the way, I'm allergic to sesame seeds, so please try to get accommodations for that before you get my food." And it sounds like this is food that can like really affect his breathing, so like this guy was just asking to have some kind of allergic reaction, and that literally, in my opinion, is not your fault. Because seriously, how could you have possibly have known that this would have caused him problems? He's never said anything about this, and you had no idea this was a thing. So no, you're not the jerk in this situation, because the way your boyfriend acted, in my opinion, is incredibly irresponsible. Am I the jerk for telling my neighbor to move his newly planted trees that are literally all over my property? Because right now he's pissed off, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So a few months ago, my neighbor approached us and said he wanted to plant a row of fir trees between our yards. We expressed some concern, specifically in the area closer to our house where it is dark, which is also a place that we have trouble growing grass, and we wanted to plant something smaller in our bed there. These trees will grow quite large and wide, and they are not what we want for our yard. But then our neighbor said they would be planted on his property, and we just said whatever. It's his property and he wasn't asking for money, so fine, go for it. We were working from home when the landscapers were planting the trees, and we briefly went out to look at the progress and noticed that the holes were large, but it was hard to tell where the tree would end up, and we just didn't protest. However, once they were fully planted, we noticed that several of the trees appeared to encroach on our property, specifically several in the areas that we had concerns about. We notified our neighbor about our concerns right away, and he was open to moving some of the trees and wanted to know which ones and to where. Since we didn't know exactly where the property line was, we said we wanted to get a survey to be better informed. Well, he asked that we do this as soon as possible because it was late autumn, and he wanted to be able to move the trees before it got too cold. We called a surveyor immediately, but due to their schedule, it was a month before we had the final survey report, which cost us a total of $3,000. When we got it, the survey showed that out of the 12 new trees, 6 were on our property, 4 of them are right on the line, and 1 is very close with branches substantially growing onto our property, basically meaning that only one is fully on his land. When we sent him the plot plan and asked him to remove all 11 trees planted on or growing onto our property, understandably, he got really upset. He was pissed off by our request and the timing of it. He would say stuff like, well, why didn't you tell me sooner? Now I'm gonna have to pay twice. You guys are terrible people. I'm just gonna put up a fence anyways. So truly, with all things considered, am I the jerk for asking him to move his trees fully onto his property line, especially in the cases where the trunks might be right on the line? We are considering offering to pay half the removal cost, but really at this point, we don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk for telling this guy to move his stuff. This guy's an idiot for not getting this surveyed before he did it. You mean to tell me that he planted trees and didn't do anything to make sure that it's not on your property? Because this guy completely missed the mark. Nearly all the trees except for like one is like in a place that covers your property. That really is the dumbest decision he could have possibly made. So any kind of aggression he has towards you, he really should be directing at himself. Because if he really wanted to do this right the first time, he would have gotten a surveyor to make sure that he did it right. Am I the jerk for not saving the house my grandma is trying to sell off? Also that my brother can live in it. Because after being promised that I would own this house, it seems like my entire family is going back on their word. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 25-year-old female, and my mom, my grandma, and my great-grandpa all live on the same property. My mom and my grandma share a house, and my great-grandpa had his own next door. He sadly passed away 2 years ago, and the house went to my grandma. Now, even before my great-grandpa dies, we talked that I would one day buy the house and half the property off my grandma. We initially expected that would be when I'm around 30 years old, but you can't really predict the death of a loved one that precisely. I had recently moved to a different city to be with my boyfriend, but he also agreed that we would move back once we were ready to settle down. While my grandma was grieving and contemplating if she wants to sell, my mom suggested that my little brother, who we will call Luke, as well as his girlfriend, who we will call Emma, move in temporarily so they can have some privacy and in turn keep up with the chores so the house stays in good condition. Well, this year, my grandma said that she wants to sell the house next year and she needs the money for her own renovation. Yesterday, I visited my family and grandma, my mom, and I set a date to discuss how we will proceed. But that's when my brother interrupted, saying that he should be there as well, as he also has an interest in the house. Now, this was the first I've ever heard of this, but apparently my mom knew about this because she said our main concern should be keeping the house in the family and that him and I can discuss at a later time who will live in it and to buy my grandma out. Well, I told them that I intended to let Luke and Emma live there for free for the next few years, as I still want to focus on my career before settling down, but I would not invest in something I don't intend to make my own one day. Property is expensive, and my boyfriend and I want to start investing now before there are any major financial responsibilities involved. Well, my brother argued that him and Emma live there for some time now, and that it's unfair to expect them to just leave once I decide I want to move back. But I told him that the alternative is to either pay the whole sum next year, or our grandma will sell it to some stranger. Now, my brother and mom both called me a jerk for being selfish, saying I would get the money back if he wanted to buy it from me, but for me, it's also about the cuts in my lifestyle. It would mean tightening our budget to pay off the loan, and effectively losing money due to inflation. But it's true that I would be the only one able to pay my grandma, so the house isn't sold to strangers. I don't want it to not stay in the family either, but I feel they are putting an unfair expectation on me, and they're guilt-tripping me by calling me a jerk. So truly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because this clearly is supposed to go to you. The fact that your brother and his girlfriend are being like, oh, well, we've lived here longer. You can't expect us just to leave, do you? It's like, yes, if I own the house, absolutely. I'll give you time to move out, but I'm absolutely moving in there someday. So I really think the alternatives you've presented are completely reasonable in my opinion. Because for them to be like, oh, wow, you're selfish, in my opinion, is incredibly rude in and of itself. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my brother borrow my car for his emergency, even though he's in a tight spot with his car breaking down? Because after I said no, my brother freaked out on me, and now the entire family is turning against me, leaving me unsure what to do. Here's what happened. So I have a younger brother who we will call Ethan for the sake of the story, who is a bit irresponsible when it comes to finances and planning ahead. A few days ago, he called me in a panic because his car broke down, and he's telling me that he has an important job interview tomorrow, but he has no way to get there without his car. Now, here's the thing. I just bought a new car. I've been saving up for it for a long time, and I'm really careful about keeping it in good condition. And honestly, I don't feel comfortable letting anyone borrow it, especially Ethan. He's borrowed cars before and hasn't always been responsible with them. He once returned a rental car with a big dent in it and didn't tell them about it, which ended up costing him a lot to fix. And after that, I've been a little hesitant about lending him anything valuable. I told him I could help in other ways, like offering to drive him to his interview or helping him find a rental car, but he flat out refused to all of my other offers. He is now really upset, saying that I'm being selfish and not being there for him when he needs me the most. He's accusing me of not understanding how important the interview is, but honestly, I just don't feel comfortable risking damage to my new car, especially since it's my only means of transportation right now. Well, my parents are now calling me to tell me that I'm being too harsh and that I should be more understanding of the situation. I feel I've made my point clear, but I'm starting to second guess myself because they seem to think that I'm being unreasonable. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm still incredibly frustrated. No, you're not the jerk at all. You literally offered to drive Ethan to the interview yourself. Like, what's the problem here? Isn't that problem solved? You even said, hey, I'll help you find a rental car. So it makes me wonder, okay, why do you really want this new car? Because I think it's not about him actually going to a job interview. Instead, I think he wants to use it for personal reasons and that's it. So for him to call you selfish after you said, hey, I'll drive you to your interview, I will literally help you find a rental car or anything else, like that is super sketchy and really disrespectful. So no, you're not the jerk, because in my opinion, Ethan clearly has ulterior motives. My ex is accusing me of cheating after I moved on, and now she wants to contact my girlfriend and let her know exactly what she thinks is happening, because right now I feel like I messed up in a big way and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, for the past 2 years, there was a girl that I was dating. We were officially in university. I started working in February earlier this year, and around then we had a fight. At the time, there was a lot going on personally, and I did not respond to her. We basically stopped talking for weeks that eventually turned into months, and mentally, I accepted that this was the end of our relationship and assumed we had broken up without having a conversation with her and ending it formally. I moved on mentally, and I went about my life as though we had, assuming that it was implied and spelt out from the no contact. We spoke here and there, but it would not be considered as reaching out to each other. Now, there was someone else that I met around the same time in February, and although there was nothing at the time, it developed much later in the year, and I pursued a relationship with her. When she would ask about my previous girlfriend, I would always brush it off and not even give her a name because I think subconsciously I didn't want to tell her. I'm going to tell her later today, but I'm not sure what the reaction will be because I really see a future with this person. Yesterday, I had to visit my ex to return something that she asked for, and that was the first time that we saw each other and properly spoke in months. It's also when I verbalized that we've been over in my head for a long time. However, when I said that, she flipped out and took it as the fact that this new person was the reason why we didn't speak, even though the whole time I had moved on. And that's how I pursued this relationship with my current girlfriend. We have been very public and I've been very vocal about the future that I want to have with her. Well, today she sent me a screenshot saying that my ex had requested to follow her. I suspect that my ex wants to tell her everything that had happened, and in our conversation yesterday, she said that she was cheated on even though that wasn't the case at all. So truly, how do I address the situation? Am I valid in feeling that she is being unreasonable? What should I do? Okay, honestly, this is so immature because this should have been handled way better. You don't just ghost someone and be like, okay, I guess we're broken up. I'm gonna get a new girlfriend, because this is literally how they're gonna react. Like, I'm not saying your girlfriend's actions were like reasonable in any way, but the fact that you moved on without like properly saying, hey, I'm breaking up with you, in my opinion, is crazy. Like, that really is not okay. The better thing to do would be like, I don't know, call her and message her or do something just to say, hey, we're breaking up and I don't want to be with you. Because sure, it was probably nice for you to move on without any kind of effort or having that weird conversation that you know is looming in the background. But guess what? Your ex-girlfriend is now like, oh wow, you cheated on me, even though in your head you moved on. Like, there are some major communication issues in this story. It's honestly just so disturbing. So truly, I hope you find a miracle in some kind of way of working this out, because what you've gotten yourself into, in my opinion, absolutely could have been avoided. I caught my entitled ex-girlfriend cheating on me after we've been together for 11 years, and now that we're broken up, she's demanding that I fund her new lifestyle with her new boyfriend by paying for all of her bills, as well as moving out of my own house so that she and her new boyfriend can get back on their feet. But once I say no to her and tell her that I'm not gonna do that, things escalate in a way that I honestly never expected. Here's what happened. Okay, so I found out that my girlfriend of 11 years was cheating on me with an unemployed dude of all people. I'm not rich, but I provide her a good lifestyle, and I paid for most of her bills. I also provided a nice place for her to live. I paid for her nails and hair to be done regularly, and we had dates every single weekend with couple vacations every year. Now, she got used to that lifestyle and wanted to keep living it despite cheating with a broke dude. food. She didn't admit to the cheating, but I caught on to it. And once it was clear I was done with her, the entitlement really started to show. She said because I had family in the area and she didn't, I should be the one to move out, but I should also continue paying the bills to give her and the new guy a chance to get on their feet. She also insisted on keeping my dogs and told me I could only see my own dogs if I asked the new guy. But since they didn't have any money, I needed to continue paying for food and veterinarian bills. Well, instead of those weird demands, I kicked her out and I kept my dogs. Now at that point, she was angry and still felt entitled to my income. After I kicked her out of my place, she claimed she was forced to quit her job because I forced her to relocate. And then she tried to sue me for lost wages, which did not work out in her favor. I mean, you would think that she'd stop at this point, but she didn't. She contacted my work and threatened to sue them, stating that their employee's action was costing her everything, and tried to insist that they settle outside of court with her for $100,000, which by the way, she didn't even make that much money. But instead, my work filed harassment charges against her. Now you would think she would stop at that point, but she still didn't. She started messaging every family member of mine that she could find, told them I cost her everything out of spite just because she moved on with someone else, and that the least they could do is send her money to help her get a place and pay rent. When that didn't work, she went online and begged for people to send money to her Cash App so that she can get the help she needs with a place to live. And she even claimed that this was a domestic violence situation. Now, I don't understand how she doesn't understand that any financial support I gave her would end if she cheated on me. We were not married and we don't have any kids. I've supported her for years, so I owe her nothing. So I really don't owe it to her to help her out with their new relationship in getting them on their feet and establishing themselves, which surprisingly somehow comes as a shock to her, despite the fact that she literally ruined everything. Oh man, this entitled girlfriend is insane if she thought she could seriously get away with this. So let me get this straight. She had a boyfriend who was clearly very well off, and she decided to cheat on him with someone who was broke, while also still expecting the original poster to like fund her life, as well as move out of his house and give up his dogs. Like, what are you talking about? That is crazy talk. She was with you for 11 years too. Like, you had that level of crazy right next to you for that long, and you probably had no idea that she would do something like that. So truly, I'm so sorry this happened to you, but I'm also so glad that you got away from her, because she clearly thought she could get away with this in some kind of way. And that, in my opinion, is so incredibly dumb. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My sister's husband basically stole a TV during a Black Friday sale, and right now I'm realizing I'm the only one in the family who has a problem with this. So at this point, I'm wondering if I'm overreacting because this situation has seriously upset me. Here's what happened. Okay, so this just happened during Black Friday, and I'm honestly still processing it. My sister and her husband, who we will call Mike, went to Walmart for their Black Friday sale. According to them, it was absolute chaos. There were hundreds of people everywhere. There were barely any workers, and it was a total mess. Mike managed to grab one of the doorbuster deals, a huge 65-inch TV that was marked down from $899 to $399. Apparently, the checkout lines were so insane that people just started walking out, like literally just pushing their carts through without paying because there weren't enough workers at the registers and security couldn't handle it. And you know what? My sister and Mike joined them. They walked out with a $400 TV because apparently everybody else was doing it, and according to them, the store should have been better prepared. The part that really bothers me is that they were bragging about it at a family dinner yesterday, and this is right in front of their kids and my kids. They were laughing about their amazing deal like it was some funny story about outsmarting the system. I pulled my sister aside and told her this was basically stealing, and it sets a terrible example for the kids. She then got defensive, saying I'm being dramatic, and that big stores expect this kind of loss during sales, and that it is not really stealing because the store couldn't handle their own sale properly. Mike then jumped in saying I need to chill out, and that I'm probably jealous I didn't get any of their supposed deals. I'm honestly disgusted by the whole thing. Later, my kids were asking me if it's okay to not pay for stuff when stores are really busy, which just proves my point about what message this sends. My sister hasn't talked to me ever since I called her out, and my parents are saying that I should apologize for making drama, and that this is somehow none of my business, but I really feel like someone needs to say something. So seriously, am I overreacting here? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I don't know what to do. No, you are not overreacting. I hate people who steal, and this is honestly like straight up thievery. And I know for a fact if my sibling was bragging about stealing a TV from like some kind of store, I would be losing my mind on them. I would be like, wait a second, why would you do that? Because you proved it yourself. This sets a horrible precedent for the other kids in the room. And the fact that your sister was trying to justify this as if the store was ready for this kind of loss, like that is crazy to me and there is no good excuse for that. So no, you're definitely not overreacting, because if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. My manager complains that I need to start clocking out on time, despite the fact that the person who's supposed to relieve my night shift keeps showing up late. So now I've decided to maliciously comply, showing my manager once and for all how stupid their rules are. Here's what happened. Okay, for a bit of context, I work overnights at a well-known gym franchise that I will not name. My typical shift is from 10 o'clock p.m. until 6 o'clock in the morning. Usually there is always supposed to be 2 people on the night shift together, but lately my coworkers have been calling off a lot, causing me to be in the gym alone all night. My coworker, let's call her Sam, comes in at 6 o'clock in the morning when I get off. Well, here's the problem. Sam doesn't usually come in on time, and she is usually always 10 to 15 minutes late. So onto the problem at hand. Because Sam comes in late, I tend to have to stay clocked in past 6 o'clock in the morning. Additionally, since I'm usually alone at night, I can't get any important tasks done until Sam comes in. My boss noticed my time cards and got very upset that I haven't been clocking out right at 6 o'clock in the morning. He made me feel awful, despite constantly being on the blunt end of all his scheduling messes. So I told him, okay, I'll start leaving exactly at 6 o'clock. So that's what I've been doing. I've been leaving the gym entirely unattended until somebody gets there, and most of the time, no one does for a while. So now members are confused, and my manager doesn't know what to do, considering he's the one who scolded me for staying past 6 o'clock. He thought that I would just clock out and stay off the clock, but seriously, why would I do that? I was not going to take the fall for someone else consistently being late. The best part about it is that he won't fire me or write me up, because technically speaking, this is exactly what he wanted. Yeah, I can't stand managers who act like this, who complain about a problem that they are literally causing. Like seriously, why on earth is Sam still working there? If she can't show up on time and do her job, then she's gotta go and you've gotta find somebody who will. Like seriously, what a massive waste of time and energy. So it also just doesn't make sense to me that the original poster is catching any heat for this, because they're not the problem. They're willing to stay until Sam decides to like go in for work. But here your boss is being like, wow, I can't believe you stayed past 6. You better stop that right now and clock out when you're supposed to. So I really love the way the original poster handled this, because this really did shove it right back in their manager's face. An entitled client claims that my company is moving too fast when we're doing our job, stating that we were being unsafe of all the people around us and that we needed to slow down. So we decided to maliciously comply, resulting in us taking nearly 3 weeks on a job that could have taken 4 days. And I've honestly never felt better about putting somebody in their place. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened about 2 years ago. I work in construction, but more specifically, I cut concrete. A lot of people aren't familiar with my job, but all you really need to know is that I don't pour any concrete. I use big diesel and hydraulic powered saws to cut and remove it. Now, I work for a relatively small company of about 15 people, and we are the company to use for concrete cutting and removal in our area. I was the first employee hired at this company, and my bosses are amazing. They've been in this industry for about 25 to 30 years respectively. We will call them Brad and Cody for the sake of the story. They know what they're doing, and they still get out and work in the field and will outwork any of our employees. We were awarded a no-bid contract at a very large facility to cut and remove a very large section of their outdoor slab because it had cracked. Now, this was routine for us. We could do it in our sleep, but it was still a large project. The reason we were given the contract but not held to a number was because they wanted it done right and fast, and they knew that we were the guys to do this even though we aren't always the cheapest. The customer also requested us to bring extra equipment and specialized saws just in case, and trust me, this will be important later on. The day comes that we're supposed to start, and they wanted us on site at 6:30 in the morning for a safety meeting. Brad and Cody went out while I stayed back to get my crews ready for the day, all before heading out to meet them. When I arrived at 8 o'clock in the morning, they were still standing by their trucks just talking. I asked them how the safety meeting went, and they said that no one had shown up yet. Well, finally, they got there at around 9 o'clock in the morning and didn't even acknowledge that they were late. We met the guy who was in charge of the project, and for the sake of the story, we'll call him John. John said during the safety meeting that there would always be a few people around from his company to watch us while we worked. We figured it was weird, but honestly, no big deal. We ran a routine safety meeting after, and it was now time to work. Well, we got about a third of the project completed in 1 day. Now, the entire time we were working, there were no less than 25 people standing around watching us work. We kept joking with them to just set up bleachers, as it would be easier to watch that way. They made us call it quits at about 4 o'clock p.m. so that they could go home. Right about this time, we started to figure there there was something up with these guys. They didn't care that we didn't get started until late, and they wanted us to end early, yet a big part of us being there was to get it done fast. Either way, we figured we would still be able to get it done in about 3 days and make record time for a project of this size, all while making a fair amount of money for ourselves. The next morning, as we were getting ready to head out for the day, Brad received an email. The email said,
"While we can tell that your company are master operators with their machines, we feel as if they are operating in an unsafe manner by running multiple machines at once and request that they slow down to maintain safe working conditions. They also didn't try to make sure our supervisors felt that they were safe throughout the day."
Now, when Brad read this, he was pissed. We were called in to get things done fast, and not once had we done a single thing that could be considered unsafe. When we got to the job that day for the safety meeting, Brad changed from saying, "Oh, screw these guys, they don't know anything about what we're doing," all the way over to say, "Okay, we're going too fast, then we will slow it right down for them." At the safety meeting, John, who's the same guy who sent the email, he looked at us and said,
"Okay, everyone knows what we're doing, so let's get it done."
He tried to end the safety meeting with that, but that's when my boss spoke up and said to him, "Hold on, since no one's man enough to tell us in person and just want to hide behind their emails, let's get this straight. We're going too fast and we're unsafe for you." When Brad said this, John became visibly uncomfortable. He then stammered out,
"Well, there was a lot of people standing around and watching you yesterday, and I just felt that someone would get hurt if they decided to get closer to watch."
Now, I had set up safety cones with red danger tape strung between it and told no one to cross. We had taken proper safety precautions. If they didn't feel comfortable to have that many people watch, then maybe don't have that many people standing there watching and literally doing nothing. All Brad said to them was, "Okay, we will be real slow, and if someone crosses our line, we shut the site down for an hour for another safety meeting." And it was at this point we decided to cue our malicious compliance. As we started our day, something to note about our saws, our tractors, and other heavy equipment is that we have the ability to turn up the idle, or in other words, we can turn up or down the speed of the motors. So instead of everything moving normally and how it should, which is relatively fast, everything is moving at a turtle speed. Brad told us all that if we ever speed up our machines, then he would kick us off the job. Even Cody, his business partner. I was cutting with our saw, while Cody was in the excavator to remove the pieces that I cut, with Brad in the skid steer to haul the pieces to the dump truck. I would cut the concrete into 6 foot by 6 foot pieces, which would normally take me about 20 to 30 minutes, but it was taking upwards of about 3 hours for one piece. Then, after I would cut it, Cody in the excavator would turn his machine on, slowly turn and stop, and then, as excruciatingly slow as possible, move the stuff that he needs to move, and then shut down his machine, all without idling up. Then, Brad would start his machine and repeat the same process to load into the dump truck. So basically, you get the point. It was painfully slow. After the first piece was ready to be pulled out and Cody started the process, John, who was just sitting on the sideline pale-faced, crossed over my line to ask if we were really serious, at which point Brad screamed for us to shut down and we all stepped away for an hour for a safety meeting. John crossed the line 3 times in the first day and 8 times total throughout the project, while his employees never once crossed the danger line. So basically, John was effectively the only person that he had to worry about in his email about getting too close and being in danger. John just kept saying to us,
"No way you guys are serious. What happened to what you were doing yesterday? You were so much more efficient."
Brad then just said, "I have it in writing that you felt unsafe, so the remainder of this project will be operating at a safe pace." Well, this ended up taking about 3 weeks to finish at that horrible speed instead of the 3 to 4 days at full speed. Now, the best part about all of this, the head of the facility came out to see what was taking us so long, and we showed him the email, and he himself agreed with what we were doing. He told us that he hates John, and that he's insufferable to work around. He said the success of this project is directly tied to John's yearly bonus. He asked how much we were charging them, and we told him that per piece of equipment and truck, as well as the saw that we use, we're billing them by the hour, and that John had requested that we have nearly double the amount of equipment than we actually needed or used. The facility head just laughed and said, "Fantastic. I will make sure that you're paid in full. Don't go easy on us with the bill." So that's how we maliciously complied our way into charging about $200,000 for a job that should have realistically only been worth about $45,000. I even got a solid $20,000 bonus because Brad and Cody are fantastic bosses, and they knew that we were making a killing on that job. Wow, that's a good example of maybe you should just keep your mouth shut if you don't know what's actually going on, because John in this story absolutely just put his foot in his mouth. For starters, literally nobody on the site was doing anything dangerous, so the fact that John would be like, "Wow, you guys are moving a little fast for me. Maybe slow things down and be more careful." And And it's like, dude, you literally don't know what you're talking about, and you yourself are only gonna get in the way. So truly, I find this story fantastic because sometimes this is what it takes. Because people like John make working environments absolutely a nightmare to deal with. Am I the jerk for not allowing my husband's friend to bring her dog to our Thanksgiving dinner? Because right now she is freaked out and claimed that she will no longer be showing up. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my husband asked if we could host Thanksgiving this year. We usually don't host because our apartment is small and we don't really have any guest parking, but he was really excited. We used to host events at our old place and it was a lot of fun. Most of our guests are friends, and everyone agreed to bring a dish. One of his friends, let's call her Chelsea, volunteered to make the turkey. On Thanksgiving Day, one of his friends asked if she could bring her cat, and I said no pets because, as I mentioned, we live in a small apartment, and this is a dinner gathering. I didn't think it would be comfortable for anyone, including the pets. My husband suggested that we also let Chelsea know about our no pet policy, and I agreed with him. I was a bit hesitant though, because Chelsea is one of those people who likes to bring her dog everywhere, and if she can't bring the dog, then she arranges for a dog sitter. Now, in the past, she has caused some tension when her dog wasn't allowed at other events. I told my husband to text her to check if she was planning on bringing her dog, as I didn't think that it would be a good idea. I also offered to talk to her myself because my husband isn't as comfortable with confrontations. He texted her and she called afterwards. He then put her on speakerphone, and I could tell that she was upset from the tone in her voice. Chelsea told me that she always brings her dog everywhere, and I pointed out that wasn't entirely true, since we've been to several events where she did not bring the dog, which is true by the way. She then asked why we hadn't mentioned this before the invitation, and I explained that I didn't think it was necessary to mention it, since I assumed it was understood that bringing pets to a dinner without asking isn't typical, especially when we don't have any pets ourselves. At this point, she got upset and said to us, "Well, I guess you'll have Thanksgiving without a turkey then." When she said this, I was surprised, because it felt like she was trying to pressure me into letting her bring the dog, implying that she wouldn't come without it. I don't like being pressured, especially in my own home, so I calmly responded that I was sorry she felt that way. She then immediately said, "No, I feel sorry for you, since you won't have a turkey," and then she hung up on us. So am I the jerk for saying no to her bringing her dog? I feel like I was setting a reasonable boundary, but now I'm second guessing myself and I seriously don't know what to do. No, you are not the jerk here. Chelsea is being so overdramatic. You live in a small apartment. It's not like you have all this room for people to come around, especially her dog. And by the way, this is not going to be an all-day event. Just leave the dog at home and then come yourself. Like, it really isn't that hard. And the fact that she's like, "Okay, we'll enjoy Thanksgiving without a turkey then," to me that shows exactly how immature she really is. And in my opinion, I think you dodged a train with this lady. So no, you're not the jerk for setting this boundary, because in my opinion, this seriously is not that big of a deal. My girlfriend blocked every girl on my Instagram while I was in the shower, and now I'm honestly so confused and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my girlfriend and I started dating in February and moved in together in October. I don't really have anything worth keeping secret from her, so I'm comfortable leaving my phone around knowing that she knows my password. I noticed this morning that my Instagram follower count was off, and noticed that every female was unfollowed or even blocked. Now these were all co-workers and friends I made in the army, as well as some family friends. Well, I confronted her and she started crying and blaming it on trust issues. I have never cheated in any relationship, and I do my best to maintain mutual trust. I've been thinking all day while she's at work, and I feel like she broke my trust permanently. She also doesn't let me play video games with my male friends anymore because she apparently feels left out. So right now, I feel like I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place, because at this point, I really don't know what to do. Oh boy, this is definitely a weird one. For starters, what your girlfriend is doing is unbelievably toxic. The women that you're following on Instagram are not people you're gonna cheat on her with. They are literally co-workers and family friends and like friends you made in the army. You know, people you're not gonna have any kind of relationship with. So that first and foremost is already pretty weird, but it's the fact that she's not allowing you to play video games with your guy friends, all because she feels left out. Like, that for me is a massive red flag that I cannot ignore for a second, because from the sounds of it, it really seems like she's trying to isolate you from everybody. And I really think she's just lying when she's like, "Oh, I feel left out of your gaming sessions." It's like, what are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. Because let's flip the script for a second. If she had some activity with her girlfriends and you suddenly stepped in and said, "Wait, you can't do that, I feel left out," or if you even went on her Instagram account and blocked and unfollowed every guy that she's following, like, that literally would be so crazy it's not even funny. So yeah, the way your girlfriend's acting is really weird, and in my opinion, you definitely do not deserve that in the slightest. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, case, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.